Okay, we are heading to our second semi-final of the day. It is going to be Demise going up against Munster Rugby Gaming Academy. I almost forgot that for just a second. Thank you, Graphic, for helping me out. And this is going to be a really interesting matchup because for a long part of the split, most people considered Munster Rugby Gaming Academy like one of the top one teams, especially as they started to pick up steam towards the mid-start of the split where Blue Spirits and Jeppe started to pop off. But Demise, they were, I think most people saw them maybe week 2, week 3 as a bottom 2 team because they just couldn't seem to execute on their very talented top laner Rifty. They were basically playing full split push all the time and never really managing to make it work. And suddenly something flipped, and just just as you heard Evan to talk about, basically said they found a style that worked for them, and then they've stuck to it ever since then, and they have been winning consistently.
I do have to say that going for that kind of split push style will always work out less early on because it does require that level of discipline, right? Even Evan was saying that he does agree that in this game, like that they just played, they should have been a bit more disciplined about certain things, and that's more stuff you have to improve on. Whereas if you're playing like a very chaotic, like team fight based style, that's probably a lot easier to be executing from the off while everyone else is trying to play split push, right? So you'd expect a team like that to ramp up. Thing of Demise though is that it's pretty much unquestionable how strong Rifty is compared to like the rest of top lane talent in Academy, right? And I also think on the side of Munster, when we're talking about looking at them as potentially like a number 1 team at one point, it's testament to how close competition has been in this league. So many teams have actually been fighting for number 1. Everyone here is literally on the same score in the UKLC. All of them were 9-5, and there were teams that were first place that lost it within even the last week, you know? So I do think that's kind of testament to how close everything is. There were just some teams where it did take a while for them to ramp up, but you kind of expect that from their style, and some teams who were really good from the off, and then once those teams ramped up, they started getting contested. And you are right, Munster's the one that are dropping, and Demise were the ones that are on the rise. So that's pretty interesting to see here, especially with how different their styles are.
So I've got a question when it comes to both of these teams and kind of like how you expect them to play out. Do you think that Demise are going to get away with just playing Rifty on Maokai and playing a normal kind of team fight style composition into the likes of Munster, who are pretty good at that themselves? That's my question. Do you think that this reformed Demise is good enough in a best of 3 scenario to take on Munster Rugby Gaming Academy?
Even the reformed Demise was playing stuff like Wukong in the last week that they had in the UKLC. So it's not like they have abandoned carries on tops, even if they are a little bit more of a complete team. They just knew when push came to shove, if there isn't an optimal scenario for them, they are willing to just match and play easier compositions. The question is, what are the optimal scenarios for them now? Because you have to think of a player like Rifty that they are going to continue practicing these kinds of heavy split pushes on top side, these kinds of heavy carry carry champions on top side as well. And that doesn't just limit yourself to split pushes, right? And I would very much like to see them play around Rifty here, because with Munster Rugby Gaming, you know what you're going to get from there. We know we're going to get to see them play heavy bot side champions. I wouldn't be surprised to see something like Stoner Lux, given that I've now seen them in bans. Quite clearly something is going on in scrims with that champion, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that. I wouldn't be surprised to see Caitlyn. I wouldn't be surprised to see high damage stuff like Carthus. I wouldn't be surprised to see any of this stuff on bot lane where they can actually try to get an advantage as fast as humanly possible, right? And if we have, can their bot lane win faster than Demise's top lane win, we could just see a race every game of this series, and that's really interesting.
Getting a bit of targeting towards both Proxy and Beely here, by the way. Proxy, a lot of questions were kind of said, is he just good on Ashe? Because every time we've seen Demise do well, like there was a lot of Ashe play coming out from Proxy, and you know, he stepped up on that particular champion, very strong. But the Caitlyn first pick, is this a kind of a little bit of a tag towards G2, who played the Caitlyn Morgana into Fnatic at the weekend and had an absolute ball with it? Is this something that maybe Demise are looking towards, you know?
Well, Caitlyn itself is just an incredibly strong pick on this patch, right? She got the 2 AD buff and the 5 MS buff, and a lot of people generally look at those as small buffs, but 5 MS is actually a massive buff. MS buffs are generally the ones that stick. MS nerfs are generally the one that stick, because it's essentially effective range over time. If instead of me telling you that Caitlyn got a 5 MS buff and me telling you that Caitlyn now gets 25 extra range every 5 seconds, then you'll understand how broken a buff like that can be. The 2 AD also also does matter a lot. Now you're not looking at Caitlyn anymore as a champion, especially because she buys crit, right? As a champion who has a 2-item trough, which is what we saw beforehand, but a champion that actually spikes effectively on 2 items. You are now seeing Infinity Edge Storm Razor being the first 2 buys on her, because that AD buff is exacerbated by early crit buys, right? And now she doesn't become a champion where you're waiting for 3 items after your first one. She's very strong, very early now, on top of the MS buff itself. We are seeing the Morgana, like you were pointing out. I'm not necessarily a fan of it blind, because especially with Ezreal, you could now just see something like Janna. Enchanters are actually pretty good into Morgana unless you're willing to flex it in towards midsection. But the Elise, now that implies every time I see something like triple ranged coming out from jungle and both bot laners, I'm normally thinking about immediate dives towards bot side. This is how we used to play Caitlyn way back in the day. Last time that Caitlyn was like a massively big deal was 2018, actually, back when I was still coaching in EULCS, and this kind of thing would always be a we're pathing to bot and we're diving bot side really early on. Otherwise, we're inting our setup, and they are blue side, so it's a free camp clear from Elise on top side into bot side, or single target into red buff in towards bot side dive. Either way, she can be there very fast, whereas Graves would prefer to full clear. If Graves has to int his full clear to actually stay on bot side, that would probably be the best thing he could do.
Yeah.
Because if he remains even with Elise, he's going to outscale Elise over time. That's probably what Graves has to do here. And if Graves instead allows Caitlyn to get far ahead and just full clears himself, he's going to be at an immense disadvantage versus the range of Caitlyn. As a relatively short range Graves, doesn't want to be in that situation, does he? So we're going to see a lot of action bot side really early on is what I'm thinking from this draft right now.
And you're seeing some enchanters banned out here, you know, with Soraka being taken off the table by Demise. They understand where maybe the weaknesses could lie with this particular blind pick bot lane. I'm assuming Forza is PFI. And if that is PFI, which I'm assuming it is, this is a PFI pick. I always associate Elise with PFI, absolutely 100% of the time. It's like his champion. Like, this is the one that if he goes to like pure comfort, that's his champion. That and Lee Sin, so coming through. The Bard gets banned. Now, Janna is up, like you said. They have targeted Beely, by the way. Orianna is something that
Lux.
Oh, Lux
yes.
is...
Oh, they hovered Lux. Karma is also a hover that would be very viable here as well.
It's banned. It's banned.
Oh yeah, Karma is also banned. So actually, yeah, the Lux is probably the best thing they could do right now to try to prevent that dive occurring. Her shield is also incredibly strong, obviously, right now. And the other thing I'm thinking is about what Demise could do for mid lane. Instead, it is the Rakan, so they are going to be pretty vulnerable to a dive. So we're probably going to see Graves match it, and we're probably going to see a lot of action early on. But with all of these bans, they've leaned into the fact that Galio is already out, that TF is already out to ban Orianna Zoe, but Kog'Maw is still up, and you would have an insane amount of range on Demise if you go Kog'Maw here into Azir. Graves cannot play into that composition whatsoever, and you have an absurd level of siege on team on the left if you do that, an absurd level of poke. Swain could still be blanket for topside. Okay, instead we are going to see Wukong and then Swain on the midsection. Kind of surprised to see Swain. You asked me champions I'm going to see today, champions I'm going to see into Azir. Swain really would not be up there for me, but we are seeing it come out anyway, and this does mean that Azir does have an early back into Merc's treads open to him. Please don't do the tear of the goddess back that I've been seeing a lot today. But he does have a Merc's treads back open to him, and it would be very viable here versus Morgana, Swain, and Elise. Maybe there's a potential that this is a Morgana on mid lane, by the way, and a Swain on bot lane. That's also a potential here.
Could be. Might not be the case, though. Looks like these comps are being locked in. Rifty with the blind pick, Wukong, and Death by Lollipops. He is going to, or DLB, as he'll be seen in most cases. He is going to take the Mordekaiser here. So, Veteran, we've got about 3 minutes until we're going into game. Let's start to look at win conditions for either of these teams. Let's start with Demise, because I think it's the sort of the DBL, not DLB. Sorry, Hitbrain. Thank you for correcting me. It's Demise has got quite a clear cut win condition, I think, with the Morgana Caitlyn lane. But just talk me through it so we can kind of get some expectations for this game.
So we're going to see them attempt early dive on bot on level 3 on the Elise. So third wave crash coming out from bot side, which should be very easy versus Rakan. And then Graves is going to have the option to either just do a full clear of his jungle, or maybe even trade sides very heavily. or just match the bot lane dive and try to defend it. Now, maybe we could see something happen level 1 because Ezreal is very strong level 1 and so is Graves, and Elise is relatively weak there, but Morgana, Caitlyn, and Swain are going to be pretty strong, so I don't think we'll see that. But a map split for bot side would probably be the best thing that Monster Rugby Gaming could hope for, but they would kind of have to be gifted it. I would expect to see Demise do a 5-stack level 1 bot side to defend against that possibility, and then just engage into a standard fan with Elise starting top side and parving to bot, like I said. Sure. I would be very worried if I was Monster here. You do still have the Ezreal insurance. Ezreal is still going to be a monster later on. That's always a risk if you let Ezreal through the draft. But the rest of the team, I don't really think you want to be diving into a Swain. I don't really think you want to be diving to Rook. I don't really think you want to be diving to a Morgana. How do you really reach this Caitlyn unless this Mordekaiser gets really far ahead, is able to find flanks, is maybe able to isolate her, anything like this? It's just so difficult for them to get onto the Caitlyn here. That being said, if you are able ever to get Swain behind, for example, then you do have the option of trying to take him out, trying to take Rukai out, trying to take these champions out, because this Caitlyn, you're going to be playing defensive from very early on with her. She's not the 2-item bad champion, 3-item really good champion she was before. She's now just really good from first back onwards, and in this composition, really good from the first few minutes onwards. So I'd be a bit worried if I was Monster Rugby Gaming. It's a lot on Demise to really mess up here, and Azir to find really good engages or them to find really good flanks. Otherwise, Ezreal has to play the game of his life because there isn't really that much point and click lockdown on the side of Demise to deal with this Ezreal later on.
It kind of to me feels like there is limited engage options that are going to work for you if you're going to be Monster, and you don't even really have like good solid split push win conditions either because you've still got the Wukong to deal with. So it feels like you kind of boxed yourself in. The only way I see it working out is maybe like the Graves gets insanely ahead and they take a good couple of like early mid game dragon team fights or whatever, and they can kind of snowball it from that point onwards. But honestly, it does feel like Demise are in the best position here. I think one of the big win conditions that I kind of want to touch on before we sort of hand over to the casters is, or rather the matchups. We talk a lot about Rifty. What are we expecting from the Mordekaiser Wukong matchup?
So from the Mordekaiser Wukong matchup, I am imagining that because of the amount of priority Demise are going to place towards bot side, that might be where Monster Rugby Gaming try to find a lot of advantages with Graves. However, they could just ignore that entirely and just try to let Graves scale in. But I don't think Rifty's going to be able to push heavy advantages in this matchup at all. I think it's going to be squarely on the side of Monster Rugby Gaming. I do think, though, that in spite of that, Rifty's composition is just going to be a lot better. This is Demise's game to lose, no matter what.
This is Demise's game to lose, no matter what. What a statement to end on. Let's hand it over to our casters for the first game.
Thank you very much, Xcandrel. We're getting ready to go into semi-final number 2. Munster Rugby Gaming taking on Demise. And that is a bold claim from Veteran. It is Demise's game to lose. Orcs, I know you're very experienced at the Swain. Before you were abusing Ziggs, you were abusing Swain. Talk to me about it mid.
Well, one of the big changes they made to it is they made it so your W is actually a much higher range and scales to a much higher range. And I think it's actually a really powerful ability. So one of the big factors of it is it has a very long-lasting slow on it. And often it does a decent amount of damage as well. The base damage in it is pretty high. They did nerf that in the trade-off. But essentially the way it goes with having the mid Swain is you can walk a very small distance and you can assist your side lanes. And just throwing down that W, that extra damage, that slow as well, can often be enough. If you hit a binding on Morgana and you have your Swain within like 2 screens, he can help out. And that's a big factor of why Swain is being played mid, because your ability to assist lanes from such a long way. I used to play a lot of Swain support, and it'd be a similar situation where I was able to assist in situations while being such a far distance from the fight. So we should look to see Beely doing that. Whenever you see a play around Promax or PFI where they have that hard CC, expect to see that W coming up from the Swain, instantly following up and adding that extra damage.
Well, looks like we're all good to go. The teams are taking on to the Rift for our second playoffs of the day. Demise, they had a pretty rough middle of the kind of season. Things weren't going completely right. They got a little lost in their identity. They tried to play too much towards Beely, and that was heavily shut down. Rifty. Proxy and Beely really changed the turns for this game, for this team. They stepped up to the plate. The addition of Beely was really big mid lane. Proxy really stepped up as a bot laner. And one of the questions raised was obviously by Xcandrel, just before the game started was he looks very good on the Ashe. You even argued last week that he was the best Ashe in the league. I argued Blue Spirits, but either way, the Ashe has been taken away. He's got his hands onto the Caitlyn. Can Proxy have one of those performances again?
That's a big question, and we will have to see. Ultimately, I mean, it's a game setting you up for success, essentially. You have so much that's leaning towards this bot side play. There's a potential to dive early as well. I just really want to see Demise capitalize on this. And if Demise do end up winning this series, this is the style of play they need to beat out the likes of Envision as well, to challenge them in the early game, particularly around that bot side. So this could be a setup for what a final is going to be. We'll have to see if Munster answers out. But ultimately, a very different Munster, I feel. The biggest difference being Jeppe and Blue Spirits opting out of contesting that 2v2. I was super hyped for this matchup because I really felt like they would challenge each other in this bot lane. I felt like there'd be early contention of these power picks to the lane advantage, and I felt like the 2v2 would be heated. But it feels like Munster have moved away from that a bit. And honestly, with Munster having a rough end to the split, it really is on them to change their play style rather than Demise.
Really is. We are seeing already the early Caitlyn Morgana push, like you would expect. Already almost taken a full plate off just the first wave. And Blue Spirits and Jeppe, they are opting out. They are just falling back and playing this as safe as possible. Now that the level 2's come down, a binding into trap combo is just you out of the lane. There's no other way to put it. It's if you've never played into Caitlyn Morgana, I genuinely think this is one of the most obnoxious bot lanes you can play into. It's awful.
Especially as a Rakan, it's really difficult because a lot of engaged champions actually have a decent matchup into Morgana. So like your Threshes and your Nautiluses don't actually do so bad. And one of the critical factors is that you can actually break the Black Shield. So Thresh maxes his Huck first, as does Nautilus. You break the Black Shield, and then you have follow-up CC to make use of. That is not the case of Rakan. Rakan can't break your Black Shield with his Grand Entrance. And as a result, he's very limited to what he can do. You know, so it puts him in a difficult spot. And like the thing is, even if he does break your Black Shield with his Grand Entrance, you block the CC, the only CC he has. That's the important thing. So it's not a fun lane for Jeppe. It's not a fun lane for Blue Spirits. This is Demise really able to put down the pressure in this early game. And you can see already PFI is on the bot side. So he's there to assist or potentially threaten a dive if they ever feel like they want to go for one.
It's a really nice pickup for PFI. It is one of the champions I associate with when I see PFI. He's so good on this elite. And we have to see how he's going to pilot it now to try and get the advantages for his lanes. Bot lane is going to be, like you said, it's going to be pushing, so you have to go for the dive. It's a matter of how well they can execute that dive. Chromax is going to get jumped onto by Jeppe. But for now, top lane is pushing currently in favor of DBL. So this is the only pushing lane that Demise have to work with. Munster do have the shove in the mid lane. It's currently equalized out, but DBL is holding Rifty underneath his tower here.
Yeah,
in these early stages.
We see the Mordekaiser. The two picks that I often see picked in a Wukong are Mordekaiser and Malphite, and both of them are just a bit too bulky for Rifty to really deal with. They can trade back a lot of damage in return, and ultimately they make life difficult even in team fights. DBL can just ult Rifty, take him out of that. Oh, dive coming in.
They're just going in. Jeppe gets a repel off. PFI now in for a little bit of hurt. Actually jumps back towards the enemy team, and first blood for Blue Spirits.
Yeah, good timing for No Name to be there, and ultimately Jeppe playing that one really well. PFI oversteps, hands over a kill to Blue Spirits, and as much as we're seeing the CS leader masked, you've now just given 400, sorry, because it's first blood, gold to that Ezreal to mitigate that. If you actually look at the gold numbers, we'll now see Blue Spirits, despite the CS disadvantage, up in gold. So a massive failure on what this lane was trying to achieve on the back of that death.
Yeah, really unfortunate there for PFI to get caught out. Not really setting up. He should have known once the cocoon missed just to step away, but overstayed, overreached, and paid the price. Rifty now, with No Name showing bot lane, actually takes his opportunity just to jump in onto DBL to get a little bit of a trade-off. DBL's actually going to hold the turret just outside of the, the wave just outside of the turret's range, and that actually means Rifty has to try and shove it in because another wave's going to crash in, and Rifty now having to overreach. Does have ultimate available to him as No Name. coming in, and Rifty got the Flash Cyclone available. DBL doesn't have the Death Realm, and Rifty just flashes away as No Name jumps in for a full combo off onto him. Massive chunk by Munster.
Yeah, I mean, it's an early flash from Rifty to get him out, but ultimately you got what you wanted for Munster. You burn the flash, the wave is in a really difficult spot. The cost is going to be this dragon on the bot side, but ultimately you're not massively concerned about that. No Name finding advantages bot and top for his laners. One dragon isn't really the end of the world.
Early Infernal does at least set them up for a potential Drake win condition as well, so at least it's something. Proxy, even though he did obviously not get that first blood and Blue Spirits was the one to pick it up, goes back to base, gets himself the BF sword while Blue Spirits has the Tear of the Goddess. Also been able to take 2 plates, so a lot of gold in Proxy's pocket. I'd actually like to quickly see a toggle between the current gold differences between his early characters. Proxy's just going to trap up Blue Spirits. Jepe jumps into the trap. Takes a little bit of damage. Proxy's okay. And now you can see the gold difference still in favor of Blue Spirits, but it's 200 up.
100 up.
Sorry, 100 up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the critical thing is the fact that you've got all those plates taken by Proxy, so much work done, and you have an Ezreal who's gone tier call who just isn't being punished. That is one of the fickle things with the Caitlyn Morg lane, is that it's very momentum-based. If you're ahead, you can drive that and really get a lot of work done. But if you're behind, you can really start to struggle. And there's, again, the evidence of why Rakan has a rough time in this lane, because if you go in with that Grand Entrance, the Black Shield is going to block that CC. And unless you can bait it out and use your Feathered Quill to break the shield, you're not going to find an avenue to really knock anyone up on the side of Demise.
Billy just farming away, quite happy. TPL flashes his mastery emote. Thank you. Billy building towards the rower early. Obviously, pretty much expected. Got most of the components there. Got the catalyst. Got the blasting wand. So closing in on that item. The lane swap comes out from the side of Demise. They are going to be a little bit quicker than Munster on this, and Foxy should be able to try and take over the lane.
Gives them a bit more priority to play around with, but do you see D.Va having mid-priority, already moving up? Has gone for the Merc Treads early, as was talked about on the desk. So mitigates a lot of that CC pressure and the magic damage mid-jungle coming out from PFI and Beely. So you've seen PFI go for a reset here, so kind of awkward timing. Realistically, PFI should have reset to match with the bot lane coming top side. To have PFI reset now for item and then pathing top is a little bit slower pace than I would have liked otherwise, because it means that you can see D.Va already moving in to get control of this area. Scuttle is spawning very soon. That could be gone potentially, but looks like D.Va's backing away and No Name's not stepping up, so they should be safe to take the Scuttle when PFI arrives. And it's mostly just Proxy and Chromax having dominance over the lane, which has really secured PFI to be safe in this reset.
Well, PFI does make his way back. Going to try and set up the control. Actually, looks like Beely's just going to sack his wave and actually make his way over to make sure that this Herald is picked up for Munster. Not Munster, for Demise. Yeah, Beely sacrificing a little bit just to make sure that his team do come out the better. Jeffe's stepping up, but they're not going to be able to get anything off in time. Ulti comes down by No Name, and Chromax and Proxy just go straight back to top lane, straight back to farming.
I mean, you got what you want, and you're playing around your bot lane. You are really strong, permanently have priority, so it allows you to get the dragon, get the Herald. Now you can swap back. Big play we often see is throwing that Herald down mid, forces Munster to react.
Oh, Proxy. It's going to get knocked up. A lot of damage into the quickness. So does have flash and heal. Proxy just getting caught out by Munster. That does force out the ignite and the quickness from Jepe. But now Proxy, somewhat exposed, somewhat weaker.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a greedy reset from Proxy. And Jepe and Blue Spirits find an opportunity to punish that, which they always love to do. Didn't expect it as much in this lane. But they find that window, and it puts them in a pretty good spot for this one, because it just slows down the rotation coming out. Proxy wanted to get the reset, get down, start getting control of the dragon area. That is delayed slightly, and it just gives more of a window for the side of Munster to react to a degree.
Although once again, Demise are the ones quicker on the reset. 10 minutes on the clock, and Demise made their way over 28 seconds until the dragon spawns up, and with the Rift Herald available, and this is already a low turret from the earlier shoves. Demise just going to slap down the Herald now and get control of the lane, get this tower, and then get set up for dragon.
Yeah, this has just be gone. So instead of going for the mid priority here, they go for the tower on the bot side, force Jeppe and Blue Spirits back, and get a ton of gold for themselves. And see, Binding doesn't quite connect there. They're going for the second shove pretty heavily. I feel like this is a mistake. I think they honestly should have just gone straight for the dragon. But ultimately, No Name moving to the top side means they're not really going to get punished for this.
Yeah, No Name showing up top lane, like I said. So Demise now just looking to get their second dragon and very much in control here over Munster. So talk to me, what are Munster looking to do? What are their conditions? Because we've kind of talked a lot about Demise and how well they're executing their current play pattern. But what is Munster's game plan?
I think honestly the mid-game spike for Munster is really big. When you're playing on the 2-3 items for both Diva and Blue Spirits, that is when you're super powerful, and typically when a Caitlyn struggles and is on a bit of a trough. So I'm looking for them to try and find some momentum around that, not give up too much in the early game, and start to challenge team fights in that situation. If Demise do try and engage, then you have a ton of tools for disengage and kiting. So essentially it's letting Demise try and overstep and then turn it around in favor of you guys.
Well, we'll keep our eyes on that. Thank God, by the way, Diva is gone for a Lost Chapter, and then that is a dagger in his inventory. That isn't a Tear of the Goddess.
Yeah.
Oh,
personally, I really favor the Lost Chapter into Nash's. I think that's, in my opinion, my preferred build for these here. I understand there's some variations, but ultimately that's one I favor. Really not a fan of the Tear. I think other builds have merit, but I think Tear is a mistake, which you did see in the previous 2 games. So again, glad I'm not seeing it now.
They didn't win. Just throwing it out there. I'd actually be really curious what Terazir's win rate is currently in the UKLC. Because I know we've seen a couple of them, but I can't think of any of them really succeeding.
I don't think so either. I think it's just like the champion already scales well, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to play into that even more so. One of the big things about Azir, one of the things that makes him so strong is the fact that he contests early priority and he's relevant early. You know, if you want to play scaling champions, everyone would just pick like Kassadin, Nastus, Veigar and just play for 40 minutes. But the whole point is that people have this misnomer about scaling champions that means that they're useless early. You know, like Ezreal's a scaling champion, Caitlyn's a scaling champion, Azir is a scaling champion, and they're still good, but Diva, not that good.
Diva just gets chunked a little bit there by Beely. Did have the backup of 3 members bot lane, so Beely has to be a little careful. Level 11 in Demonic Ascension, so 2 points into that ultimate, and might be a little bit rough to dive with the rower as well. Beely fairly tanky and has a bit of drain coming in from the ultimate. PFI is maybe looking up for DBL, not going to find him. DBL just spacking away, and it should just be the second turret for Demise picked up as Rifty going to summon his clones to help him whack away at this tower, and it is going to go down. And most of the wave also died out to it, so also denying DBL fairly nicely there. Beely looking for Jeppe. Is going to miss out on the claw and out on the Vision of Empires. Cocoon lands into binding. That's a lot of CC. Forces No Name to pop the collateral damage to get some distance out. Beely does miss out on another claw.
It doesn't get a yank as well. That's one of the big things with a Swain when you have a lot of CC set up, is when someone gets knocked up, you can just yank them back. Gives you some health back as well, which is nice. Oh, Spirit does get away with the Arcane Shift. I was hoping we'd see Beely just drop down the... what's it? Vision of Empires, I think.
Vision of Empire.
W? Yeah.
You're the one that made him for a little while, buddy.
Yeah, I don't read his abilities, though. I know what they do. I actually don't like that he's maxing his claw second, though. Really not a big fan of this. So this is what a lot of people used to do. I actually toyed around with both options, both the claw and the Vision of Empires. But since the changes on the patch, it's just better to max the Vision of Empires second, because maxing the claw doesn't reduce the cooldown anymore, I believe.
Munster are actually able to bully Demise out of the mid lane. They are going to lose a Rift Herald, though. Proxy just bolts up over there I think Munster are well aware that Rift Herald is happening. And now Beely setting up onto D.Va. Misses out on the claw as it hits the minions. The Hand of Palpatine does a little bit of damage.
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that putting points into your W increases the range quite drastically, increases the damage. Whereas putting points into your E doesn't affect the cooldown, which is the critical thing. That's why you used to max it. And obviously, one thing you can be concerned about is the mana cost, because putting points in your E doesn't increase the mana cost. Putting points in your Vision of Empires does. But I just fully believe that the points in W get more value. And then it's so great to see when someone lands like say a Morgana binding into the Vision of Empires, into the Caitlyn traps, and they just die for all the stacked up damage. But
we'll watch out for that one. We'll watch out for that one. Infinity Edge now finished up with the proxy, so those headshots are going to really hurt. Another quick cloak as well.
On D.Va and Blue Spirits. These are big spikes for both the Ezreal and the Azir, so they should be fighting this dragon, and it's a big one for them. Here's the setup.
They're looking for it. Dragon's already pretty low. PFI is quite a distance away. If the Herald gets summoned mid lane, and I actually think Demise are going to be way too slow for this. Sansol just come forward as the claw comes out. Here's Rifty on the flank, though, looking for his opening. Goes invisible, pops in. There's a massive cyclone. Pulled back by the ulti, but Chromax takes out Jeppe. In comes the teleport, and down goes the Mal, whatever his name is. Chromax, he's going to zone him out for the moment inside the Death Realm. Pop goes the Weasel as DBL goes down. PFI secures the kill. The Mordekaiser, by the way. The Mordekaiser in the top lane.
Got them in the end. But just great setup from Demise. I mean, the flank from Rifty was perfect. Even though they lose the dragon there to Munster, the flank was perfectly executed, and then it ended up just being DBL TPing into several members and getting crucified there. I was a little bit concerned about the Caitlyn having a bit of a power trough here, but ultimately Rifty capitalizes perfectly. We talked a lot about how Rifty was this massive split push threat, and I've loved to see his movement back onto these team fighting champions, because he always finds these beautiful angles to approach the fight, and Munster just stood no chance of contesting that one.
A couple of times I've actually seen some pretty greedy bases from Proxy. He got pretty heavily trunked as Cocoon goes wide from PFI, and in comes Jeppe, gonna force the repel out as Beely's doing his best to defend this tower, but it finally goes down. D.Va slides in, gets the two-man shuffle back, and now Blue Spirits looks to try and mop up. One kill's already been picked up onto the Azir, as that's gonna force Beely to go golden. Rifty jumps in onto No Name, looking to try and shut him down. Jumps in and gets Jeppe. Ace in the hole lands onto Blue Spirits, and Rifty now on the run, slowed down by the Iceborne Gauntlet from Blue Spirits, as he will just mop up a double kill. And Munster get themselves a couple of picks and a tower in the mid lane.
And I'll look at the Ezreal on that big spike, 3 kills in the pocket in a really comfortable spot. And ultimately just disrespectful from Demise. You got the team fight, you got the mid lane tower. Just go for a reset. If you really want to defend, you have TP on Beely, but ultimately they try and overstay. They try and force Munster away when they're low on HP, they haven't reset, and ultimately Munster managed to punish, and they get more than they even asked for with this sort of an array of kills. And it was just Demise not being willing to give anything up. And it's one of those situations where you've already won. You can give a little bit in return just to get your reset timings. Getting tempo, getting a good reset is an objective in and of itself.
Looks like Chromax and Proxy are actually looking to hunt down D.Va here.
D.Va wins this.
Quickly dodge away on the binding. Jumps in, gets the shuffle back, and Proxy just about gets him. Chromax going pretty low. Proxy able to secure the kill.
Could have been close, but the black shield, enough of a magic damage shield to keep you safe, and swing and a miss from Blue Spirits, trying to hunt down Chromax.
I do actually quickly take note of Proxy's build here. Going in for what I assume is going to be a rapid fire cannon as his next item. Veteran hit on the desk for the Caitlyn Power Trough is something that's fairly common, but a lot of Caitlyn's nowadays actually going for the Storm Razor second because it somewhat negates the that Power Trough. But it looks like for now, the rapid fire cannon, the extra range, the extra attack speed is what Proxy wants, but this does mean that he most likely will hit that Caitlyn Power Trough a little bit more.
Yeah, I've seen two sort of builds coming up a lot, which is the rapid fire second and the Storm Razor second that I've seen a lot of people playing with. Personally, I agree the higher AD with the Storm Razor I think is better. But I've seen people go in the other direction. Obviously, you get the extra range and the auto attack, and the attack speed means your DPS is doing pretty solid. I still think the Storm Razor second is the better option in my opinion, but there is an element of preference. So I don't think it's too big either way. For Swain, we are seeing the Haunting Guys come in. I think the big spike for Swain is when you have Roa, Leandries, and Zhonya's. Those 3 items, all of them are so good for him. Because obviously you stack up your ult with the Madness passive from the Leandries, and Zhonya's means you can just stand in your ult and drain. And obviously Roa is just such a good item for him with the HP and the mana. So I think that 3-item spike is a really great spot to be at for a Swain. So I'm looking towards that spot. And obviously Proxy being at 3 items as well will be a significant spike on top of that.
Oh, we do have a quick pause, unfortunately, but see them setting up for a little gank onto D.Va. I don't know if they're going to be able to get that one off, but so far, 4 kills apiece, 2,000 gold lead over to Demise. Dragon spawning up fairly shortly, and Demise, they're feeling pretty clean and in control right now.
I'm a bit concerned, though. And one of the things is the fact that we wanted to see quite a lot of pressure in the early game. It's only 1,000 gold lead. I'm looking at Blue Spirits and D.Va. They're on pretty good spikes. And also, they're significantly up in terms of gold. I mean, we look at the fact that Blue Spirits is 3-0. We look at the fact that D.Va is 50 CS ahead of Beely. I'm concerned about that because I think there will get a point where Swain does start to struggle a little bit, especially against the likes of an Azir, just because of the range disparity. And although Caitlyn obviously does scale well, Ezreal is a menace in the later stages of the game. So let's see how this one pans out. Right now, Demise fishing for a kill potentially here. 1 bit of CC means they all land.
Oh, there it is. That's what you were talking about. Jeppe gets bursted out. Proxy gets pulled back momentarily, but is able to disengage enough. And now Munster actually do have that inside track as a binding. Just about narrowly dodged out as the Legacy of Shurima gets erected up in the mid lane. This actually does mean that D.Va has to use the shuffle as he takes so much damage. Chromax secures the kill. Oh, DBL walks onto a trap. Rifty jumps in with a Cyclone. Binding goes a little bit wide. Beely's actually popped the Demonic Ascension. Rifty's got the second Cyclone to use. Just going to use it as a threatening tool to say, look what I can do. The Demise will move over and pick up this second dragon. Sorry, their third dragon.
I mean, just ultimately, Munster overstepping in that scenario. I know there's a concern about stepping into the traps going through river, but just walking up when you have Fog of War for Chromax to fire bindings, that is so dangerous. Because when one connects, they all connect, and it's very hard to get out of that situation without cleanse or QSS. D.Va goes down, and that's enough for them to pick up the dragons. Now 3 in favor of Demise. And ultimately, I mean, the initial pick was a bit sloppy. PFI, Hex flashing forwards, put him in a dangerous spot. And on top of that, we also saw a bad layering of CC. The binding from the Morgana came in instantly after the stun. So you want to lay it a bit better. If you layer it well, they'll just never get to move before they get 100 zeroed.
So for Demise, what is the game plan now? You can see that Munster have got some vision around this Baron area, but not too much, really. It's just these trifecta of wards that are being spotted out and sweeped out.
I think for Demise, it's control. It's whenever you want to do something, you want to have the vision set up, you want to be there first, you want to have trap set up, and it's around doing that for Baron and Dragon. So you want to play around your waves, get control of an area, get vision control, force Munster away and don't let them contest it without face checking into a ton of damage, a ton of CC. Realistically, they're not under huge pressure because next dragon would be a soul. So I think they can just kind of wait for that one and lean on that one as a win condition.
Oh,
CC
there's
connects.
the trap. There's the binding. Jeppe jumps forward, but already Blue Spirits is cut down. Proxy gets the shutdown, and now Jeppe on the run. Rifty teleports in, and they're looking to tidy up a little bit more here. Flashes forward, gets himself the knock up. No Name has to jump away as Jeppe pops the quickness to keep them both alive, but their health bars are so low. Proxy now chasing for a little bit more. Doesn't have to ace in the hole. The Pilty of a Peacemaker goes a little bit wide, and Demise afforded some control around this Baron area. DBL going to get this moment to try and crack away onto this tier 2 bot lane, but the cost may be much.
I mean, this is risky in all honesty. If you end up losing out on this fight, you could be in a precarious spot. There's TPs coming in. You're trapped in the pit and you're low. Might have overstepped here.
Yeah, remember, PFI can literally be zoned away from Baron where he can't smite by DBL. Blue Spirits and everybody is looking to come in. Munster closing out on the door. Beely has already used Demonic Ascension to live this, and now Demise, they're being collapsed onto. DBL's coming forward, has that claw, is going to bring back Rifty and looks for the slam onto him. Proxy actually jumps in forward, but gets himself knocked up by the Grand Entrance. The Black Shield is huge, but here comes D.Va looking to try and tidy this one up for Munster. PFI has to go airborne as the shutdown from the True Shot Barrage is there. Munster come up huge, and Chromax is getting it taken out. The shutdown picked up for Blue Spirits, and the Baron will be their reward.
Just overstepping completely there for Demise. Oh, that was a huge Vision of Empires, though, for Billy for the stacks. But PFI trying to go for the steal, but D.Va will not let this happen. Just going to Hex Flash over the wall to get away. Baron for Munster. Huge for them. And ultimately, this is Demise getting greedy in a lot of ways. Firstly, they got a big pick, which I think was super favorable for them, onto Blue Spirits. That's great. Use it for tempo, use it for pressure, use it for control. But they TP Rifty in, and they try and get the kill on a no-name. I think that was a mistake. I don't think you need to TP Rifty in. And on top of that, you didn't get a kill on no-name, so just reset. Instead, they stay for the fight despite only having one pick. Blue Spirits has TP to rejoin. Playing in a Baron pit against Ezreal Azir, especially with those beautiful flanks, is never going to go well. And now I'm starting to get concerned because Ezreal, 3 items plus the Executioners is super strong. Azir has the Leandries. These carries are getting super relevant. And I think they're in a good position to take this next dragon. If they take a good fight of that, the Baron can be enough just to decimate the base.
And it's a double Energizer build for Proxy, so this is going to be, you know, it has its strength, but this is definitely the Caitlyn that has a power trough. Rifty not got teleport, off split pushing off in the top lane, trying to see if he can get something in response, but it seems a little bit of a desperation play. I mean, look how much damage Proxy just did to Jeppe. That was obviously through the shield, but even so, the damage is just
the
very, very minuscule.
Is typically good for Caitlyn, but the thing is you lack a lot of AD compared to the Stormrazor build.
Yeah.
You don't have nearly as much punch, and you don't have that slow on that auto. Like, the AoE from the Shiv isn't very good anymore. There's a reason no one builds Shiv anymore. The item's pretty weak.
Oh, PFI misses the mark. DBL shield is huge as he slams him down. PFI just about able to get it, but he gets turned around to by the Baron minions. DBL gets the kill.
Ends up getting one when I really didn't see DBL getting the kill there, but PFI, despite being high HP, gets bursted down. Landry's finishes him off. They lose mid inhibitor. Not too big of an issue, but it's just symptoms of a problem. Munster are in a really comfortable spot. They have the Baron. They're now fishing for picks here, but with PFI dead, this dragon is as good as theirs. And again, it's denying that soul away from Demise, delaying it even longer.
It has to be a miracle pick from Demise if they want to get this. Looks like they're not even going to bother contesting it. It's only the second one for Munster, so Demise, while a series of errors have cost them pretty heavily here, at least it's not like a soul. It's just the second dragon over. It's one they can afford to give up, so respect for stepping away. But Munster, they have really flipped this game back around in the last few moments.
And my big concern is the Swain right now. Almost 100 CS down. Swain does not outscale compared to an Azir, and it's 2 levels down as well. Not a good spot to be in. 3k gold is the difference nearly. D.Va is just so much more relevant than Beely. And realistically, Beely's going to have a difficult time in these team fights because you want to be close to the backline, soaking loads of people, draining them with your ultimate. That's never going to happen against an Ezreal Azir.
PFI's looking for a pick here on to Azir, but D.Va is just playing so safe, and Munster now rotating everybody up. They know this is the last tier 1 turret, and they think Beely's isolated, but even so, I don't think they're going to win 2 versus 4. This should just be the turret going down to D.Va.
I mean, it's just Munster taking what they want. And the real question is going to be where Demise is going to find that control again. They're still good at making picks, but realistically, as long as Munster don't get isolated, they should be comfortable in this one. It's 2 minutes 20 on that next Baron. Right now, they're just opening the map up into a 1-3-1. Beely is not having fun in this situation. Neither is Rifty. They need to try and find something mid, but all 3 of those players in the mid lane have dashes.
Oh my lord, look at the damage onto Beely. It's so much from D.Va. And now Munster rotating everybody over. Proxy's coming to make sure there's some wave clear.
Difficult. One overreach is really what did this. One overreach from Demise, threw away their lead, and handed it over to Munster. Now, 50s.
Looking going in. No-Name gets caught out by the cocoon. Pulled back. That's PFI the kill onto him already. Demonic Ascension used by Beely as Proxy gets a kill onto Jeppe. Demise, it was looking a little rough, but they find themselves 2 picks. DBL's going to shove in a bot lane and step away for now. Demise do find something.
That's what they need. They need the picks. They need to find members isolated. They have the CC to do so. They just need to make sure the execution's there. And it was quick. They managed to pick them off almost instantaneously, and they layered the CC well. So for the targets, blue.
You heard both me and you take a gasp there. He's gonna die. Just about dodging away.
Millimeters there, felt like. But even then, even with that kill, even with those 2 kills, sorry, Demise unable to get anything really from it. They push their waves out, play away some jungle camps, but Munster still have control of the map. The gold lead only 1,000 now. It is close. And what I want to see is Demise push out around this barren area and try and establish a zone of control. Make someone face check into you. Make them eat a binding and a trap and a cocoon and get that pick off the back of that. But ultimately, resets are coming in, and it's Munster who are pushing up in their red side jungle to move towards that baron.
Last Whisper's been finished up onto Proxy. Proxy now got the 4 items on Caitlyn. So there's got to be a point where you start spiking. Got to be a point where he starts really ramping out the damage here on this Caitlyn.
I mean, 4 items Caitlyn is pretty big.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I just feel like the Ezreal's going to be the more relevant factor in these fights.
Not if he gets caught out, he's not. They jump in, they catch him out with a Cyclone. Blue Spirits has to shift away as Rifty just jumps in for one more Cyclone, finds himself the shutdown. The shuffle back from D.Va as PFI goes airborne. D.Va's putting the damage into him though, but here comes Chromax and Proxy. DBL zones Rifty off for a small moment. He flashes forward, misses the hammer slam as Rifty just looks to turn it back around. The black shield's on, everybody gets pulled in, and Rifty secures the kill onto DBL.
And that should be Baron. I mean, I'm talking about the concern for this D.Va and Blue Spirits, Azir, Ezreal, about how can Demise find backline access. They don't even need it. They just need to find a pick. Some CC comes down, and ultimately, Chromax has been huge in finding these bindings. They get 3 kills off the back of that. They get the 2 carries down. They get the Baron, and now 30 seconds until that dragon spawns. That will be Dragon Soul for Demise. And if you look at DBL, he spawns at the same time as the Baron and has no TP. Demise need to get that now, get control, and take this. They got Caitlyn traps to set up. They should be in a really good spot for this one. And you can see Potion picked up for Beely, QSS for Proxy. They've invested heavily in some items that are going to have huge value in this team fight.
You saw how much damage Proxy was finally able to start doing. Like I said, the trough is kind of over at this point.
Yeah,
4 items are big, and now it's a bit of utility for Proxy to make sure that he's not going to get caught out by DBL. And it looks like Munster, they're not even going to bother contesting here. Demise will pick up this dragon. True Shot Barrage gets fired, and not going to be even close.
Oh, it knocks the mountain shields off. Well, there's that at least, but they're just going to come back, and now it gets a little bit scary. Demise have that soul in the pocket. They got the Baron to play around with, and the siege is dangerous because when you're stepping up to clear the waves, one binding could mean your death, and that could mean base gets broken, potentially even worse. Right now that they are playing the 4-1 with Rifty just pushing in the side lane, I think is the right call. They just need to keep vision controlled and keep fishing. You find a binding, that can be enough. We do have Banshees on Azir and the Edge of Night on No Name, so a little bit of protection for them. If anyone else takes a binding, they will just go down.
1-4 here for Demises. There were some moments in this game where I was starting to get worried, but it looks like now they've got themselves back in control.
I mean, they got through the Caitlyn power trough. I think it's a critical thing. And as much as the Azir is scaling really well compared to the Swain, the picks has been the big factor because it doesn't matter how the team fight's going to go. I mean, look at this.
Look at the damage onto Jeppe. It's a grand entrance to escape.
I mean, they didn't
so
even
much damage coming out from them.
Yeah, they didn't even hard commit onto that. That's a Merc Treads as well. I mean, in fairness, everyone has Merc Treads apart from DBL, so it's going to be the same with all of them. But, you know, the CC is reduced, and they still find the kill there. It's punishing. And now the siege being shown here, Demise pushing up heavily.
Yeah, they're able to crack open their second inhibitor turret. Looking for the third in the bot lane as Rifty just bopping away. The shuffle comes out. The Legacy of Shurima has been thrown down. The D.Va just getting chunked down by Proxy. as all of the inhibitors are now left open. No turrets defending them. Only 2 turrets left in Munster's base for them to work with. Proxy, incredibly strong as they land the cocoon already. The quickness gets used. They're trying to CC for the moment. Rifty jumps in, throws out the ultimate as Blue Spirits takes down Chromax. Beely with the Demonic Ascension on that front line, tanking up so much work for him and the rest of the team. Great cocoon onto the back line as Blue Spirits is picked off by PFI. There goes the pop. There goes Jeppe. He's going to get taken down. It's the ace for Demise and a triple kill for Proxy. 35 minutes on the clock and game number 1 goes to Demise.
Definitely hit a weak spot there, but Demise come back strong after the little hiatus they had after the misplay. The Caitlyn for Proxy ends up delivering, and the whole team was just consistent with finding these picks. I've got to praise Chromax. Those bindings are on point, and Rifty as well for some of his flanks. And I just felt like Munster were just playing with fire, trying to dodge all these, and inevitably couldn't find any success. The picks were huge, and they managed to capitalize on it.
Yeah, honestly, it was smart by Demise. There were moments like that Baron attempt, which probably added 5 minutes onto the game than it probably needed, to be fair. But it did just feel like a very strong draft from Demise. I don't know if I want to see the Swain from Beely again. It felt like he wasn't really able to deal with D.Va. Sure, D.Va went 1 and 3, but you highlighted the CS difference between them, the kind of gold difference. At the end of the game, Beely had 2 items and D.Va had like 4, I believe. There was actually a really big gap between those two. And Beely has typically actually been a real kind of backbone centerpiece of this team. He didn't really give anything up, but I'd like to see something where he can maybe offer a little bit more from him.
I mean, the way I'd present it is, imagine if instead of a Swain, it was a Zoe. So similarly, you offer that huge threat for the pick for the siege. Similarly, you can roam down towards bot and assist. But you also, it's a good matchup into the Azir, and it provides threat onto him. I think the problem with the Swain is, I think the Swain's fine, but the execution wasn't there. He didn't really capitalize on moving and getting the Visions of Empires down to assist bot lane. Didn't really find great scenarios for himself where he was actually able to challenge the Azir, and the ranged advantage was a bit of an issue. So ultimately, I don't think necessarily it was necessary there for them to win, but I think there's other options you could take. But the end result is they still managed to win the game. Proxy comes up huge on the Caitlyn in the later stages, and it's just one of those things where, like, you had the mid-game spikes from Munster, but realistically they kept getting picked, and the only reason they even found a window into that game was because there was that overstep onto the Baron. So if you get a massive mistake like that, throwing you the ball, and you still drop it, I don't know what to say.
I don't know either, but that is 1 win over to Demise. And for Munster, they need to claw it back or they are out of playoffs. Demise 1 away from making finals. Who's going to win? We'll see you after the break.
All right. Well, I personally thought, just even looking at it from a lay perspective, I genuinely thought Demise had thrown that game out the window. And this opened up a really interesting discussion between Veteran and Raisins, which I'm happy to get into. We've got a few minutes to break this down. So let's start with you, Raisins. I thought that Munster kind of had a comeback here. I thought they'd kind of thrown it a little bit, and maybe Demise capitalized on that. Talk to me about your perspective on that game, and then Veteran, I'm going to bring you in.
Yeah, so I personally feel like Demise played the early game out very well. They could have pressured bot lane a little harder, and I think PFI getting caught around early game was a bit bad for their tempo and bad for what they wanted to do. But they ended up getting first Drake, Herald, second Drake, and bot tower. So overall, early game went exactly as Demise planned. But the Munster actually managed to get a really good fight around mid lane, and Ezreal got 3 kills, and this accelerated them a lot. They could have had a chance to basically stabilize the game. Ezreal Azir can snowball by just keeping their resource upkeep, right? They don't really need to worry, especially when they get third Drake, about a Drake soul. And that Baron was a very questionable call by Demise. They didn't have anyone to tank, and they kind of just threw themselves into it. And it was, we were saying this is a bad call in our Discord when we were talking about it. The result of this, though, Munster actually had the tempo lead after that Nash, and they had the map pressure and the control of the game. I think, honestly, Morgana just played out of her mind, like landing really solid binds, and Munster also overstepping and like walking into areas which they shouldn't really be walking up to. And Morgana just punished them like across the map repeatedly 3 times in a row. And I personally feel like Munster could have won the game after that Nasher, and they kind of threw it away.
So I think 2 things. One, I think that the opening stages of the game from Demise were definitely played suboptimally. We saw a 4-camp clear from Melissan towards bot side, which put her out of sync with the cannon wave, which meant that when they did finally decide to crash the cannon wave, next wave was already coming in, so they didn't just have a free time to dive under turret. I also don't actually think she got the auto off before she even tried to anyway there, and she went for camps initially as well, instead off of the first cannon wave, whereas I think they should have dove that. I think Ezreal should have died early game. I think he should have been much further behind than he was. Now, when he did get 3 kills, and when they did do the throw at Baron, which I do agree was a throw, they absolutely never should be starting Baron there. They do not have the pressure on it whatsoever. I think you're kind of overestimating how much power they actually have into the Caitlyn composition, because you have to be diving through a Swain, a Wukong, the 2 bindings there, and even though Morgana did land very good aggressive binds, even if she wasn't able to find those opportunities to do it, she would find 3 opportunities when the dive occurs. And sure, they won't land on the Ezreal, and she landed a very clutch one on Ezreal, which basically won the game for them. But even if they're not landing on Ezreal, they'll land on the rest of his team. Caitlyn will be completely protected, and Caitlyn will just mow through that team every time. It's actually very difficult for them in a tier 3 scenario to be able to force there, even when Mordekaiser has the ability to win out over Wukong. Caitlyn's team will ultimately always have the ability to press forward in a way that Munster Rugby Gaming were not going to be able to do so. So I actually think this was always firmly in Demise's hands, even after they were being sieged by Baron. Still think Cogmore instead of Swain every time there. It would be Bind City, and Swain was useless for a long time outside of just this threat, right? Like, I wanted to bring up the
Swain pick. Yeah, the Swain pick to me was just kind of, it was almost 4v5 for a lot of the game. It was almost non-existent. And definitely the best thing he did that game, in my opinion, was drawing Mordekaiser bot lane while Rifty's taking an inhib against a Baroned up team. And for some reason, the Swain is threatening enough that they were matching Mordekaiser into him. I think in general, that Swain pick was definitely not something that they would repeat in future, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I did hear you both agree on quite substantially was that Munster should not have let that top lane inhib go during Baron. Like they kind of completely entered that They let that one go. Guys, that's a really interesting discussion to have. I love hearing different perspectives, on a game and how people kind of see it from their eyes. So it's great to have that discussion. But we've got another few games potentially to go. Demise are 1-0 up in the series. Can Munster bounce back? We'll find out after the break.
Like you'll ever get paid to play video games, they said. Now you're players, creators, fans, all in one huge and growing community. Squad up, we're Barclays.
UKLC is presented by Barclays and Curry's PC World.
Okay, we're heading towards game 2 of the series. Demise are 1-0 up right now, and they are in a pretty happy position. And again, like Veteran said, I think actually, I'm going to quote Veteran verbatim coming out of the last championship. Don't worry, Veteran, I'm not going to put you in hot water here. Basically, he said, if Demise lose this from this draft, they're running it down. So they basically managed
That's a
to...
nice way to put it. Paraphrasing it, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, straight up and in. But yeah, I think realistically, they had a pretty solid draft, especially in your eyes there, and they managed to execute on it. And again, like I said, when it came to teamfight situations, it did feel that Proxy was relatively untouched, and maybe Munster agreed because they've banned the Caitlyn.
Yeah, the Caitlyn is now down. The Karthus is down, but the Sona is up and the Lux is up. So there we go. We're finally seeing it. So I can go on about this for a while. Obviously, the double support items on bot lane are going to be used here. So we're going to see all of the melee creeps go on towards the Sona because economy is better on her, and all of the casters going over to Lux with the cannons going to Sona as well. Now, the big thing here is Shield Bash and Revitalize. So depending on if it's against the poke lane or not, you could see so probably here's going to be double Guardian from both. But no matter what, Shield Bash and Revitalize will be taken by both of these guys. And the thing is that Shield Bash and Revitalize do not care where the shield comes from. Doesn't matter if it's shields that are being applied to you by someone else, or a shield that you have applied to yourself, or a shield that you have applied to another person. So it can stack. So you're going to end up seeing like 600 health shields coming out of these guys, makes them very difficult to dive, makes it very easy for them with this immense amount of poke to be able to accelerate, to get to those 2 item spikes where they are actually really disgusting. And then the whole team is just going to be shielded non-stop for the rest of the game, and it's incredibly difficult to play into. Whenever we have seen enchanters in the bot lane, Olaf has been very common with it. When it was Taric in the bot lane, we saw him a lot. When it's Karma in the bot lane, we saw him a lot. And it's a red side Olaf with a bot lane that's very difficult to break. This is really good dragon scenarios for Demise. That's immediately what I'm thinking here.
We did see this in the LEC, I believe, as a response to this lane with the Blitzcrank coming out. Obviously didn't work, but Blitzcrank's... I'm going to, like, ever since I started League of Legends, and this is a long time ago now, I'm an old bean, but when I started League of Legends, one of the things whenever I played a Sona that I realized I hated was a Blitzcrank. It's one of those things that is just like, Sona's one of the lowest HP, base HP champions in the game. Blitzcrank pulls her, Prob's going to die. But as you just mentioned, lots of ways to build shields on them, lots of ways to prevent that burst coming through.
And what does Blitzcrank do? Now, post 6.
Post 6, burst the shields.
Yes, immediately. So chat, that is essentially the support equivalent of a Renekton in that sense. I don't necessarily think it's optimal though, because yes, first you do have to land the hooks, and even though you do destroy the shield post 6, that's already giving them a lot of free time. So my immediate thing, if I'm looking at a Sona Lux lane as a pro tip for anyone going into the finals tomorrow, would be stuff like Pike and Bards that can be very aggressive to them very early on, isolate them and immediately burst them down. Those are the kinds of champions that I think you'd like to see there. They can also take advantage of how low mobility they are. We are seeing a Zoe coming out here. It's another Cogmore situation, but Syndra has been left up. And, you know, I'm amenable to seeing the Syndra here. So there's a lot of heavy bursts coming out from team on the left. Blitzcrank sets it up, Syndra bursts them down. Kalista also is a champion that would like to have a lot of early priority here. So maybe we're going to see them heavy contest level 1 versus these two, though that is easier said than done in this particular kind of lane. Early levels should still squarely be in the favor of the team on the right. Zoe, on the other hand, a champion that could look to get hard crashes on as soon as the first wave even, and then maybe lean towards bot side to make it so Kalista can't play as aggressive as she wants to be without ending up in a bad wave state. Kennen, something we're seeing a lot from Korea, very dominant lane on top side. So maybe they're realizing we may have a bad situation on bot side, maybe we can trade it for a play on top side. But now Sylas has been gifted a lot of very good ultimates, and Sylas into Kennen is something we're seeing in the LEC, so that's getting locked in as well. I like the composition on the right over.
I've got a little question. Can you steal the Kalista ultimate as Sylas?
Yes, you can actually. Sylas is one of the only 2 champions that can purchase the item from Kalista as a result. You'll see it this game at a point. But yes, you can, and yes, you can buy, and yes, you can.
I've just actually never seen that interaction, but that's cool. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, so we're going to have about sort of 3 minutes here before we're jumping into game. Let's walk through the compositions and win conditions. Over on team on the left, they're 1-0 down right now. They are struggling to get into this series. What does this team do? Is this pure burst, take control, blow up the backline with the Kennen flanks? Is that what we're looking at here?
I'm assuming that we're going to see a path towards top side with the Kennen priority, and to set to try to do something there. Given that it's red side Olaf, he's probably going to be parving from his blue buff side in towards top. So maybe Set Kennen could try to disrupt him around Krugs. Maybe he could try to disrupt him around Raptors, but that's going to be much harder because Zoe is going to have that early priority. So probably trying to disrupt Olaf around Krugs, or maybe even transitioning into an early dive on the Sylas, is what Monster Rugby Gaming could be looking to do there. Either way, playing towards top side early on. Team on the right, on the other hand, they're probably just going to enable Olaf to do his full clear as heavily as they can and use the Zoe to try to secure that for Olaf and to prevent Monster Rugby Gaming doing aggressive plays, either bot or maybe even top. Zoe can match this. This is a draft that I do think all of the cards are squarely in Demise's deck, so to speak. They've got them all out on their hands. They've almost got their Exodia here. I like the Silas because they're going to look to play heavily for bot side in this game, and they're going to do that to play with Drake priority with the Olaf, and the Olaf's going to be really heavily buffed later on. The Silas will be very good in team fights because of the amount of good ultimates he has on the left. Kennan's already the obvious one, but say that all he can get out of all of this is the Blitzcrank ultimate, well, now he's just countered the set's shields, you know? So I actually do see really good opportunities for Silas later on in the game. I feel like he's going to get a little bit ignored. We're not seeing heavy Rifty priority these games, but that's not to say we're not seeing Rifty on carries, right? This is still a game where Rifty can really show his worth with the Silas later on in team fights. Otherwise, I'm going to expect Demise to go heavily for these Drakes with this composition. And if these guys aren't taken down by 2 items, which is going to be difficult for Monster, they're going to have to force very hard for this and force very hard with their advantages, then Lux Sona are going to give everyone 600 health shields, and it's going to be an absolute disaster. So hopefully it doesn't get to that point for Monster Rugby Gaming. Otherwise, we could be looking at 2 2-0s today and a Demise versus Envision finals.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to mention that's on the line is that there is an NLC spot, fighting for that in the Telia Masters. Both teams that win today go through to the finals, and obviously winning the UKLC is the aim, but both teams that win today, they go through to the Telia Masters, albeit with different seeding at the end of tomorrow, but they get themselves a shot at getting to the NLC promotion matches, which is the big deal, because that goes from there towards the NLC, towards the big ticket prize of the European Masters, which everybody's after. This is the first step that you take. Getting out of the UKLC is the first step that you take. This is the start of some of these players' careers that can potentially flourish over the next year. So it's a huge, huge deal. Right, let's hand over to our casters. Can Demise make this a 2-0 or will Munster Rugby Gaming get back into the series? We'll find out.
Thank you very much, Excandrel. That is the question. Can Munster swing back after that loss? I am loving this Demise draft. Obviously, the Lux Sona, there's been a lot of talk about it recently. There's been a lot of hype about it. Been pretty much permabanned. And now we're finally getting to see it over here in the UKLC. Orcs, talk to me. What the hell are we looking at?
I mean, essentially, Sona Lux just 6 scales so incredibly well because it enables everything else on the team. They have a decent amount of poke, but it's just the AoE shield buffs are the critical thing. You have the layered of CC between the binding and the crescendo. You have the poke that you can put out, but it's just the fact that you make this Olaf. It's similar to having an Ocean Soul. When we always say like Olaf with an Ocean Soul just scales way better. It's like that because now you have an Olaf who's going to go from having 3,000 health to effectively 5,000 health. And suddenly it allows him just to be an absolute monster. And it's the same with the Silas as well, because those shields are just absolutely massive. And I think that's the thing, is that Lux synergizes so well with support items like the Athenes, like the Ardent Sensor. All those plus percentage shielding items go really well with her, and it just means that she essentially makes her team invincible. So if it gets to that point, I am super worried for Munster. Munster need to come out strong in the early game for this one, and they need to be applying the pressure that they kind of missed out on in their previous game, and the pressure that we've seen from them this split. And honestly, the 2 people I'm looking at are the 2 people I think have been the strongest members of the team, and that is No Name and Jeppe. They need to be the driving force in this early game.
Well, it's on them to step up here. They have the tools to do so. But if they don't, this could just be another really, really solid game from Demise. We take to the Rift. Munster down 1 game here to Demise. Demise need 1 more win to punch a ticket into the finals versus Envision tomorrow. But if Munster can fire back, they put it back to match point. And it goes from a best of 3 just to a best of 1.
Glad to see this. So something I wanted to say was that I really think you should be level 1 invading with a Blitzcrank. I think you want to try and put Demise back for minute 1. And especially if you can force a map split potentially, you can stop Olaf from playing around the Sona Lux. It's talked about in the desk how Olaf loves playing around Dragon when he's on red side. And on top of that, with Sona Lux to cover him, he's really powerful. So eliminating his ability to play around bot as soon as possible is going to be massive. Now, they are fishing here for Proxy.
Proxy's gonna have to flash. Oh, he got stuck anyway! first blood to Blue Spirits.
All right. I'm going to put 3 scenarios out to you, okay?
Just flash.
1, you get hooked and die. That's pretty bad. 2, you flash the hook and don't die. Still bad, but not as bad. 3, you get flashed and you flash and die anyway. That is worst case scenario because now you have a vulnerable Sona. You've given 400 gold to this Callista. That is best start you could ask for Munster. And again, now they're going to be able to start off with this map split. You can see Olaf is sneaking away his wolves there. But essentially, it means that No Name can play heavily around his bot side. And this Sona with no flash is in a really vulnerable spot. The level 1 invade paying off huge there for Munster.
Look at the map. Look at the map. They're actually finding No Name here. The binding gets flashed away. Beely not going to close that gap. And No Name gets chunked out early. No flash on him now.
Yeah, so a good move with regards to actually allowing PFI to do his own jungle. The downside is that you just left lane. You just missed some farm there. You're now down in XP when you're already down a summoner and in a precarious spot. So Proxy and Chromax are going to be hugging the turret for the time being. I'm glad I'm not in their position because it does not look like it's going to be fun.
Well, No Name's going to move over to his blue now as PFI actually goes for an invade.
Yeah, I'm not sure why No Name went over to his... I guess he predicted a cross-map invade, but he sacrifices his own red buff. I'm not sure why you run to your blue and you don't cover your bot side when you have priority there. I mean, you know PFI was on the bot side. I guess he just read it wrong, but you have a ward. He has a ward down.
Uh-oh.
Oh, there's...
Uh-oh. Good binding by Chromax, but they're still only level 1. Proxy's ignited. Jeffe takes a tower shot. Proxy able to survive.
That was a good block on the PS there. Otherwise, we could have seen absolute decimation onto Proxy once again. Barrier and heal burnt there, but ultimately does survive. But, I mean, No Name is just, considering how good this start was, missing out on a lot. Your jungle's just being devoured by PFI. And actually, if you look, when you move back onto the map, look at the camps available for No Name. You have the Krugs. That is it. That is all you have available to you out of your entire jungle. And yes, you have the Scuttle Crabs to contest, but PFI is in a really good position to be even in farm and have more camps up and available to you. Now, when you see Munster potentially looking for something here with a roam, Jeffe has to go fast so that recall will get channeled, but looks like they're just going to back away. Now, the Scuttle bot side will go over to No Name. There's no way you can really contest this, but PFI is going to be able to clear his top side and then pick up that top side Scuttle. So in a really good spot when he could have been in a rough one. A nice aggressive invade on the red buff. Honestly, I saw it going wrong because Blue Spirits and Jeffe could have just moved down and killed you, but he found a window to expose and No Name didn't answer it.
Looks like they might be looking for an invade in response, although camps have now respawned and No Name may be looking for a bit of a tower dive here. Chromax only got his flash. That's all the summoner spells they have to work with. And No Name channeling the Hex Flash, looking to come over the wall. The binding will connect and the hook goes a little bit wide. Demise able to avoid the dive.
I'm not sure what I don't get it. Diva was even walking down. You had time. You could crash the wave, and then you could go for this dive. You have a Set who's great at tanking the tower. Just a bit sloppy. But I mean, a bare minimum, even if you think that's the right play because you're concerned about the dive, which I can understand to an extent, sync the CC. It's that simple. You know, decide who's going first, and the second person follow. Because that's the worst thing I hate seeing is when there's 2 bits of CC and one person, they just fire at the same time.
Oh, Rifty and DBL going for a massive trade there. Munster will get themselves the Mountain Drake in responses. PFI, by the way, still hasn't picked that crab up. So that's actually still on the map, but PFI still just power farming away. He's up over No Name.
Yeah, I mean, he's up in farm, but Dragon is going to go to Munster, which is important. You do need to be stacking these early Dragons to have them as a win con. It is going to be an Ocean or Infernal, so 2 pretty powerful Dragons. And honestly, if Demise gets Ocean, I think you actually just FF. I think it's... if Demise gets Ocean, I don't want to be in the game anymore, in all honesty. Yeah, it is. So securing those early Dragons presents that as a possible threat for you to secure, but also obviously deny it from Demise is critical. I'd have nightmares about Sona Lux with an Ocean. It's really like you have to 100-0 them in such a small frame of time, or they just never die, ever. And especially with like an Olaf and a Silas, the healing is let's stop talking about this. I really don't like to talk about this. It's going to give me nightmares tonight.
I just have some PTSD right now.
Yeah. A very early swap coming out from Munster to get control around this Herald area. This does mean they can play pretty aggressive to contest vision, but it does mean that Proxy and Chromax are going unchecked in the bot lane.
And Rifty, kind of okay just to hold for the moment. Karak's going to try and get some tower gold here as Redemption actually gets popped from Beely.
You see the swap now coming in from Demise to match up towards the top side. Again, I just think it was early a little bit from Munster. It does mean they have control, but Herald's not up for a while. Now there's 4 members up towards this top side, so going to be 5 for Demise. Munster shouldn't opt into this.
Yeah, Rifty has the ultimate available. The bubble's already connected in, and there goes the set. The slam comes down. As unfortunately, we have a quick disconnect.
I was like, what is Proxy doing? Does he think he's playing Karthus? Like, why is he standing there? And then the pause came in. I was like, that makes sense. So
I saw the little disconnect thing throw down, and actually I'm not sure how this is going to be resolved, but we'll find out. And these things unfortunately happen when we're playing online due to the current situation of the globe at the moment. I mean, so we have to kind of deal with these and take them as they come.
Ultimately, like, it's unfortunate timing because you hate pauses in combat, but I completely understand if one of your players is AFK, you can't really just like continue.
You're gonna have to shut up now. We're getting back into the fight. Rifty just flashed the wall. That's how that ended. Teleport's continuing on, and hopefully we can get back into the action nice and quick.
But it's unfortunate, and you can definitely argue that PFI overreached a bit in that scenario. But definitely thought there was more backup coming to him. With a Sona there to offer shields, ends up just face planting into 3. And Demise, they had a good rotation there. They had the setup, and they ended up losing out. But now,
that's a good bubble into binding, into the slam from the chains. But DBL comes in, 3-man slicing Maelstrom, and Demise are getting chunked. But it's a 1-for-1 so far. Blue Spirits looks to try and get the rend off onto Chromax, and Chromax able to survive 1-for-1 top lane.
Getting a 1-for-1 after that huge ult is not exactly a great position to be in, but we are seeing 3 kills now on the Callisto, which is pretty massive. We'll push the wave up and just go for the reset. You can see both teams looking to fight this, but Munster are coming out ahead in terms of gold. And Proxy, I mean, look at the bot lane of Demise. Look at those summoner spells. All back on cooldown once again. Blue Spirits has both summons. Jeppe has flash. This bot lane is being punished. This is what you need to do against Sona Lux. You need to just murder it again and again and again and again until you have enough of a gold lead that it doesn't matter how well they scale, because they're never going to get there and you're going to end the game first. But Munster's definitely doing a good job so far. They need to keep this up, keep the momentum going. Right now, resets just come in. Herald is up and available. I want to see Munster once again fish for some picks. Look to get control of this objective. Jeppe with flash can really threaten this flashless bot lane of Demise.
Yeah, looks like he's looking to do so. They've got no name on the dragon, or not on the Rift Herald, sorry. But decide not to go in on to the top lane, who are currently, well, the bot lane who are currently top lane, and then we'll pick this on up.
I mean, just look at how Demise bot lane are playing. They are not playing 2v2. They are letting you go 2v0 because they do not want anything to do with the Blitzcrank or the Cluster. And they will just stand very far away. And obviously, not getting CS isn't as punishing on these 2 champions with support items. But that's if you're getting gold from the support items, which they're not at the moment. I mean, they'll get a little bit there. But for the most part, they're not able to get stacks on their support items. They're both at about 200, between 200 and 300, and they're not able to pick them up because they can't walk up against this Munster bot lane. It's just so scary now. We do see that PFI's there. He does have the ult now to avoid that CC, so that is a critical factor in these skirmishes.
Also, Beely's roamed over as well, so they were looking for it. Rifty stealing away the slicing Maelstrom, got teleport available, and I think that was enough to scare Munster off. The idea of Rifty coming in, being able to kind of get that big slicing Maelstrom off, just way too scary. Not going to have any of that.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to mess with it. You see the Spellbook Ignite available for DBL, which is actually pretty big in this matchup. With the healing, Rifty gets a low HP. The Ignite can be threatening, so Rifty just have to be a little bit careful there. Now the resets come in from Munster. They've moved down to the bot side of the map. The critical thing I'm going to look at is how they use this Herald. I want to see where they're going to place it down, which tower they're going to threaten with it. You see Proxy, I mean, this is the problem with one issue with Sonar Lux is that your wave pushing is pretty limited. So if you need a match on the other side of the map, it's going to take you a fair bit of time.
Yeah, luckily that's somewhat negated by Rifty and Beely later on in the game when they actually need proper wave clear. But for the moment, it is going to be fairly costly. Dragon's coming up and Beely's getting ganked. Unleashed Power is going to connect into the hook. Actually, Portal jumps away to safety, but D.Va gets in with the last Q.
I mean, it's a really nice portal jump, but it just wasn't enough because essentially you end up coming back. Jeppe and D.Va finding a kill and nice capitalization. Level 9 on the Syndra is a big power spike. You have your ultimate, you have the max Dark Sphere for the extra damage. Jeppe finding a good window to punish, get the mid tower down, which is a hugely impactful one because it makes the side towers vulnerable.
Are they going to stop this? No, it got the shell off on the eye, so that's honestly, the second charge out as well.
They could do, yeah. Jeppe fishing, but does not find. But Dragon secured again by Munster, and it's going to be an Infernal Soul. When I'm thinking you need to burst someone on the other team 100-0 as quick as possible, Infernal Soul sounds pretty nice to have in the pocket. So yeah. Munster definitely in a good spot in this early game, but I cannot emphasize this enough. The momentum needs to continue. There is going to be that concern if they let the Sonar Lux start to scale, so just need to keep this going.
Okay, so at what point do you get concerned? Munster have a good pace at the moment. They're ahead at the moment. And, you know, we've highlighted that they just need to keep their foot on the gas. For Demise, at what point do you start to feel that they have a better control, a better grasp on the game, and Munster should start worrying?
It's hard to say. It depends on the gold lead. But ultimately, if the Dragon Soul gets denied, I'm going to be a bit concerned because Sonar Lux, both of them on 2 items, is pretty strong. We've seen 1 item complete for Chromax. Proxy's finishing up the second. I think with the gold lead right now, 2 items for Sonar Lux isn't going to instantly change things. But if you're not getting to the point where you're powerful enough to round out the game, then I'm going to be concerned. So it's anything that slows down momentum, anything that stops progression.
Completely overstepping, gets the flash and the shield off as Rifty jumps in, steals away the Blitzcrank R, misses nice out the chains as Blue Spirits pulls him back in the yo-yo. Here comes the crescendo onto free. Rifty needs to try and close this gap, but D.Va's already got a kill onto Proxy. Rifty trying to get over the wall, but he's unable to do so for the moment. And Munster get a scatter onto 2. Rifty unable to get into the fight, and DBL's just going to cash in on plates.
Yeah, I mean, it honestly could have been a bit precarious there, but they find the turnaround. Proxy very aggressive on a very squishy champion, and now No Name. He's just shadowing Blue Spirits.
Here comes Rifty again. No Name and everybody's looking to jump onto him. They've got those shields, remember, and the GLP on Beely. No Name just going to get CC'd for days. The Ragnarok gets popped. He does use the shield, but that's going to be a big shot of the week. Rifty tries to go in. The chains go wide again. The Munster just running away with it. PFI has to run to the wind.
But it's just, again, it's PFI feeling strong. He's 2 levels up over the enemy jungler. Doesn't matter. Blue Spirits is strong. D.Va are strong. Doesn't matter how strong you feel because a 4 Eclipse and a 3 Syndra is too much for you to handle.
PFI's dead. Dodges out on pretty much everything. Just about surviving that one.
I mean, look at D.Va's HP. That was precarious there, but as you said, they do manage to find it. Even though it gets a little bit close. But yeah, I mean, a lot of time is needed with the goal difference for Demise to really come online with their composition. That TP coming in, Proxy could be in trouble again.
They got the slow from the Lux to make sure D.Va can't get close.
One concern as well for this Demise composition is they are very heavily AP damage focused. They need PFI to be that big AD threat. So I'm looking at him as well. Honestly, you want the Olaf to be a threat when you're playing this composition. It's going to be going towards the Black Cleaver. And that's what they can buff up. They can potentially buff and prop up PFI to be the super relevant threat who can ignore all this CC and just charge down Munster. But they need time. That is the critical thing. They need time. And we have 3rd Dragon spawn in a minute and a half. We have Herald spawning soon. Munster needs to secure both these objectives and just keep capitalizing. Because right now, there's not much Demise can do to contest. Even though they may be trying.
Well, Beely dodging away on a lot of things. Bubble does connect. And actually, here comes the flash. The damage to follow. The blast cone means Jeppe is out of there.
Nice move. The flash into the blast cone and then No Name just helping you out. But
oh my lord. Rifty takes a lot of damage. That's that ignite you were talking about.
Yeah, the ignite really powerful in the 1v1. In the sense, you just stops the trade in its tracks for Rifty.
This should just be second Rift Herald over to Munster. They're playing very, very controlled right now. They had Demise's number this game.
"45 seconds on that dragon, and I legitimately think that Demise just need to give this one up. At this point, 5k gold down, Sona without a single finished item, Beely without a single finished item, no one with a finished item other than PFI. I mean, I guess Chromax has the Athenes.
Chromax has the Athenes, yeah.
Yeah, it's cheap, but like either way, I just don't think you're in a good spot right now to really contest this. The goal difference is massive. I think you need to just sack this dragon and contest the fourth, which is not a good spot, but you can see the goal difference in front of you. 3,000.
Look at the difference in Proxy and...
And I know that like you're not going to get as much farm as the Sona. That's expected, but even so, that's pretty excessive. And mid lane is 2,000 as well. It's only really jungle that's in favor of Demise. I'm going to try and find some picks here.
Get a bit of damage off onto Jeppe. In comes the Ragnarok. The laser beam comes down as they pull one back. Diva's very low HP, but the unleashed power secures a rampage kill for Diva. Down goes No Name. Rifty is on the flank with that slicing Maelstrom, but he has had a tough time trying to catch anyone as he gets scattered back. Has to jump out, throws out the chains, throws out the slicing Maelstrom, tries to hit the damage in and is unable to do so. Demise just over-greeding. Like you said, they're too far behind to contest these.
And they're still trying, and they end up dying. And now Munster, not only do they get the dragon, they get a ton of kills as well. Back off! Proxy and Chromax, leave! You're not getting the dragon. What are you doing there? Like, do you want to get hooked? If you do, just let me know. And
well,
let's end this game now. Well, yeah, I mean, it's frustrating, you know, because they're just walking up unnecessarily, right? You're not benefiting from that at all. You're just potentially putting yourself in a difficult spot. And now, really, this is a point where Munster are in a really comfortable spot. Baron's going to be spawning in 2 minutes and a half. They don't even need to do it. They just need to pretend they're doing it and find the picks. And on top of that, next dragon is Soul. And they're already 7,000 gold up.
If I able to dodge away on that scatter there, that could have been a little hairy for him. Finally, there's an item on Proxy, but hasn't actually stacked the Archangels yet.
Yeah. I mean, compare that to Blue Spirits. Yeah, I mean, it's still really far away. Compare that to Blue Spirits, who's Blade Rune King, Hex Drinker, and the Executioners. And we're talking about the Hex Drinker, about the fact that it's heavy AP on the side of Demise. Only really the Olaf offering the 80 damage. And so you can already see a lot of magic as this coming out. And the likes of No Name and Blue Spirits. It's going to make it difficult. I mean, if anything, it doesn't really matter because no one's doing damage on Demise right now. Except really Beely. I guess it does ward against that. Right now, you can see the vision starting to be set up on the top side of the map for that Baron spawn. They just need to fish. They just need to keep fishing and find picks. And then from that, they can get a big lead and end the game. But Munster, we said they love their early aggression. We said they love challenging the bot lane. They are doing that right now. And Jeppe is still hunting.
Yeah, he is looking for it. Does take a hook, does take a laser beam, gets pulled back in. This is what makes it so hard. Every time they catch Jeppe, he just gets pulled in. You have to go onto Blue Spirits. But Blue Spirits is playing with respect. He steps back.
I wouldn't walk up to that Syndra proxy.
Saves the hook. In goes Beely. Gets the sleep off. The shield comes back, and there's a lot of healing to work with, but there's way too much CC to follow. Crescendo the tower.
1 Q from Syndra did half a proxy's HP. You can't see it now because he's healed up, obviously, but like, that damage difference is absurd. And it's just easy pickings. Even when Diva ends up on the tower and has to flash out, it doesn't matter. They find a hook, they find a kill, tower down. Rifty is trying to make some pressure in the side lane, but he knows he's going to have to back off.
Go for the GLP, actually. Bit of an interesting build for the Silas.
I think it's fine. Like, it sets you up so you can land your stun afterwards. And it gives you a lot of CDR, really, which is important on the Silas. We actually see it quite a bit. It's not as uncommon.
Now I've got that haunting guys as well. As Demise, they got the blue on Beely, so they'll always be able to check the Baron as it has just about spawned up, and They need a bit more time. Like you said, those 2 items are kind of like the big spike for Demise.
But like those 2 items are only relevant if the enemy team doesn't have like better items.
Yeah.
You know, like you can have a spike, but the enemy team's 7k gold ahead. I don't care what your spike is. You're not having a good time. Like Blue Spirits already has a full Maw of Malmortius, which I'm gonna be honest, I don't agree with. I think Maw isn't as good a buy. Like Hex Strength on its own is great. A full Maw doesn't add too much. So
oh my lord,
not a big fan.
That hook skimmed Chromax.
But yeah, I mean, Munster are strong. They can just keep fishing for these hooks, and now they're playing towards the dragon side because that's the big objective they want. And honestly, Demise can't do Baron. They don't have damage.
He's looking for it. Jeppe actually just flashes him forward. He gets put to sleep and taken down. Beely secures the kill. Demise get the pick onto the pick maker.
2-1 now. Now the Fate's Call is available. Now is when you can go for that play and get ulted out. I think maybe there was some miscommunication for Jeppe, but he went in a little bit too early and a bit too aggressive and ends up getting punished there. So does mean there's a window for Demise to get control of this area, but Jeppe will be up in 10 seconds, so it's not going to be too long.
Maybe Demise is just going to fish for another kill, maybe a shutdown. Blue Spirits is worth so much. Kill onto him is 1,000 gold, and Chromax is just going to step up. Looks for the slow, doesn't quite land it. The binding goes wide as well. And that is the hook, well, the pick, done. Keep in mind, PFI doesn't have Ragnarok, not for a little bit longer, so it needs to be a little careful. That's a big hook onto Chromax, forces his flash out into the face breaker. PFI's trying to make his way forward as DBL flashes forward. That slicing Maelstrom was just filthy. A double kill for DBL. Beely's on the run. Is going to try and get himself a kill onto Jeppe, but Jeppe is able to survive. A double kill on to No Name, and PFI, the only one standing as he is being hunted by Jeppe and D.Va, looking for the kill, but the Scat of the Week comes down. He pops the Ragnarok and looks to run down D.Va, but the ace comes in. Munster gets Soul. They're going to get Baron. And Demise, it is just crumbled in game 2 for them.
Yeah, I mean, Demise is getting a little bit overconfident there, in all honesty. Oh, we got a pick, guys. That means we can team fight. Nope, does not work like that. You get clean aced. You lose the Soul, and now you're going to lose this Baron. Just Munster crushing. We know they love to play around those early spikes. We know they like to apply the pressure early, and they are proving that here. So if the Chromax try and steal it, they want something.
They got the teleport. They're looking for the play. Can they make this happen? In comes the flash. That's going to be the laser. The Baron was secured. The Baron was secured. That's all I'm saying.
We saw Divik disconnect. I mean, we are getting some unlucky disconnects in this game, in all honesty.
Every time.
I think that was possibly the worst disconnect timing ever. Actually, you know, it would have been worse if it was just before the Baron died. That would have been the worst. But
I mean, luckily it was D.Va and not No Name. Because if No Name disconnected and that smite goes down, I genuinely don't know what you do. Like,
yeah.
We don't have Chrono Break. But don't worry, we don't have to worry about that. Munster do get it. The junglers are up. The unpause is happening, and we're getting ready to go back into game. Let's just switch it over. Already a shutdown has been picked up for Beely.
Yeah, so No Name has gone down.
Let's just get going. Fight's on. The shuffle comes back. They actually put one to sleep, and now Demise looking to try and tidy up a little bit here. The health bars on Munster are low. They need to take the Baron off as many members as possible. They get themselves 2. Beely goes in, stops D.Va from basing. And that is all Demise are going to be able to do.
Still favorable for Munster by far. Yes, they picked up some exit kills. They don't even get the blue buff. And they've lost the Infernal Soul. They've lost the Baron. Munster on a great spot still this game. Miles ahead in terms of gold. 10,000. And you can see the individual numbers. Mid, crushing. Top, mine a bit. Jungle actually behind. But bot lane is really that big lead. 5,000 between Blue Spirits and Proxy. And again, you're playing this sort of Spell Thieves game where your gold generation is important because you're support. But you still need gold. The whole point of the Spell Thieves is you're still getting gold. And this disparity is just massive. Demise need a lot of time. I honestly feel like Demise need not only to survive this, but they need to steal away one of those next neutrals and then stall the game out for another 5 minutes before they even have a hope. They need a miracle right now. We'll have to see if they can get one.
It's feeling very, very tense right now. Chromax gets himself the binding down as the bubble comes in to follow. They are going to get a little bit of burst off here. Jeppe gets chunked as the laser cuts through 3. Blue Spirits is just getting free time, though, onto the tower, and that is just going to crumble as DBL maybe getting a bit of attention thrown onto him as the bubble will connect. And now Demise looking to hunt him down. Rifty has to shuffle forward. They are going to catch him out as the slicing Maelstrom gets popped, and they find a shutdown. But here comes the rest of Munster. Proxy miles away from the rest of the team as No Name is going to get put to sleep by Beely. Jeppe with the hook. Not going to find it yet as No Name takes a big chunk, but Jeppe lands himself a hook. The shield is on. PFI running through the middle of the team. The crescendo lands onto one, but Diva is going to get himself put to sleep. Rifty steals away the ultimate as he's jumped into, taken down as a double kill is picked up by Blue Spirits, and Munster find everything they need. Oh, Chromax.
Still looking.
He has that blast cone. He's dodging away on the hook. I don't think Demise have this. I don't think they have that miracle you were talking about. Chromax throws out the ultimate. There's going to be the Hex Drinker to keep him alive. They don't have the waves, so I actually don't think Munster are going to be able to close the game yet. The health bars are already low. They're actually teleporting members in towards this bot side. So they're looking for 2 inhibitors. Beely is alive. PFI up in 7 seconds. They're going to lose at least another inhibitor turret as Chromax gets hooked. This is just the end of days for him. Just overstepping over and over again. Inhibitor number 2 will go down, and Demise now stepping up. Remember, the health bars are still somewhat low, but I don't think they really have what it takes. They're going to throw a bubble out.
I keep seeing these scenarios where like the shielding comes in on PFI, and I'm like, oh, you know, this could be, and then I just see like Diva press a button. Doesn't matter which button, any button, and someone's health bar just disappears, and I'm like, nah.
Well, they were talking on the desk about how Blitzcrank counters the shields because of his ultimate. You don't need it. Infernal Soul and a 6-0 Syndra also counters the shielding, apparently.
I mean, just the damage difference is just massive. Yeah, it's honestly, seems pretty impossible for Demise right now. You know, we can talk about scaling night and day, but you have to actually be alive to scale. And right now, Munster just have complete control. They're going to keep fishing for these picks, and Demise are struggling to even deal with the super minions right now.
I'd normally argue, okay, you can farm these waves, get some gold, but look what's up in a minute. The Elder Dragon. Like, Demise, they really have to somehow hold these waves, get that farm injected into them, and stop the Elder from going down. It just feels like a near amount, like just impossible task for them to achieve. They need to play respect towards Jeppe because he's just landing way too many free hooks at the moment.
Oh, he's fishing. That's the thing, they can't... Oh, Sleep connects, but the damage gets blocked here.
He did land himself a little bit of something. Jeppe gets chunked. That's as much as they're going to really be able to offer for now. The wave's going to crash in. This is Baron worn off, and another binding does connect by Chromax, but the tower's getting focused out, and Jeppe speeding up, looking for that hook. He's trying to make it happen onto Rifty. He's able to get it. Rifty gets a bit of a heal off as he's now just taken out by Diva. The slicing Maelstrom once again by DBL is just disgusting. A double kill picked up on a PFI, but he can't find anything else. A double kill's been picked up by Blue Spirits. He's full health. Bubble does connect by Beely, but he is just going to get taken out. No Name secures the kill. Triple kill actually for Blue Spirits. And it is 1 apiece in this series. Munster fight back.
A dominating performance. And there's a game that went similar to this. I don't know if you remember, but there was that MSI game where SKT played against, I can't remember which Chinese team it was, but they played Sona Tarek and the enemy team played Draven, and the game was over by like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And this wasn't quite as severe as that, but it just reminds me of that in the sense that you have this double support scaling bot lane, and you just get brutalized in the early game, and it's just over. This is what it felt like, and I think we have to praise Munster because we know they like to play aggressive around the early game, especially bot lane. Jeppe and the Blitzcrank was instrumental. They had the level 1 invade. They followed up on it, and essentially just didn't give any breathing room over the side of Demise. And now, you know, they put themselves in a pretty good spot, equalizing the score.
Yeah, it looked like 2 different teams from our first game. Demise played such a controlled game 1, and then this game, Proxy and Chromax was just walking into Blitzcrank hook over and over again. It just felt like they were very scattered. It felt like the communication was off in this game as well. There was some really questionable kind of TPs in, or like a team fight would go wrong, they'd lose a member, and then the rest of the team would be like, no, don't worry, we can chase, we can commit. And then someone going, no, I'm going to step back. And it honestly felt scattered, that game. It did not feel like the Demise we've seen for the last few weeks. It just felt really lost from the Demise. And they need to come back, as Munster, they're looking so much better than game 1. And I want game 1 Demise and game 2 Munster to fight. And then we might have a really exciting game. Because so far it's been a very one-sided either way series. So I don't know, Demise, they need to get back to the drawing board, because I am not sold on the Luxona at all.
I mean, I think it's good. It's just like there's a window to abuse it. That was the window, and Munster have shown it's not even like. So, for example, if you pick Sona Lux against Envision, I think it's pretty good. You know, we've seen Envision not really put too much pressure down early game and lean into the later scaling. Great, but Munster have proven that they love playing stuff like the Blitzcrank. Sorry, not specifically the Blitzcrank, but these hook-based champions for Jetpay, like the Callista for Blue Spirits, they love playing aggressive early. If you're going to give them a composition like this, where like the only win condition is to play aggressive early, they're like, it's about time, and they just opt into it. So I think Sona Lux has clearly shown its strength when it's been played internationally, but I think Munster's a dangerous team to play it against unless you are fully prepared for the consequences, and I don't think Demise were there.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, we are now tied a piece. This best of 3 is going all the way, baby. We're going to cut to a quick break, and when we're back, we'll have the analyst desk and break that down. So we'll see you in a second.
Okay, so let's start. And where do we start? Really feels like the Sona dying very early on was kind of doomed for for Demise, but they didn't execute on the Sona Lux composition whatsoever. And I know both of you were quite animated about what they did in the early game there. So let's talk through that through.
Yeah, I mean, this all snowballed very heavily off of the level 1 invade. Blitzcrank is one of the best champions to invade with on level 1, but also specifically here, this caused a really good wave state for them bot, where it was very difficult for Luxstone to get anything until the first crash happened, which they ensured happened as slowly as possible to threaten as much as they could on the initial Sona flash. The thing is, though, that even though Monster Rugby Gaming got this versus Demise, they actually threw away that insane 2v2 advantage that they had by opting into a swap 2 minutes before Herald was ever going to spawn topside and 4 minutes before Drake was going to happen on bot side, which meant that suddenly they were 2v1 and Sona Lux could very easily just be 2v1 bot side as well and no longer be threatened by Blitz Kalista. So what did Sona Lux do? Like the brilliant individuals they are, they went and decided to match the Kalista Blitzcrank and just continue to get repeatedly threatened over and over again in the game. They ended up doing this to themselves at a point, even though it obviously snowballed really heavily off of level 1. It was a bit frustrating to watch. They quite clearly aren't that experienced with Lux Sona itself. But yes, the game snowballed very heavily off of the early game. They never quite got the spikes they wanted to. We never quite saw the power of this pick. And Monster Rugby Gaming were able to just run away with the game. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, I'm just double checking. I think our boy Raisins was muted on one of the.
So veteran was agreeing with all the silence that I was just putting out.
Yeah,
So.
I was. I mean, it was the most intelligent discussion we've had so far. So.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much just echoing the main point for me. The key turning point was definitely top lane matching the swap, and it was just a very, very questionable decision that put them so far behind an already tough game from the level 1 that moving around the map when you're matching at Sona Lux is already difficult. So I think from that point on, game was pretty much over for Demise. And Munster Rugby Gaming basically could just move wherever they wanted. Wherever Blitzcrank and Kalista showed, they just took everything. And that was a very, I have to say, Jeppe, who played really well. Like, this was a really solid Blitzcrank game from him. And he showed us, a pretty decent way to counter the Sona Lux if you have the counter pick option available.
One of the questions that I have then is, at this stage, at this level of play, especially when you're in a really important series, is playing something like Sona Lux, which is a very new strategy that really has only been pulled out in very few professional games so far, is that something that you, and I think I'll go to you, Raisins, because obviously you've had competitive experience at this sort of in these kind of games, is that something that you would consider a good strategy? Like, is it something that is worth it when the stakes are this high for these teams? That's the question I've got.
Okay, so that's a really interesting one. It differs depending on the player. I think it's very player specific. So it depends on what the player is good at and their strengths and weaknesses. I personally think Demise should not put their bot lane on Sona Lux. They looked very uncomfortable on it, and they looked like they didn't know the limits of the lane, but also they had a very bad level 1 start. So it's not easy to judge off of this game, but I would say in general, Sona Lux is one of the more unique bot lanes, and I think AD carry as a role has been quite stagnant for a while. So immediately jumping from a right-clicking AD to a Sona is a very huge playstyle gap that I think a lot of AD carries are not ready for in like tier 2 leagues. So it really depends on how much effort the player is willing to put in to learn that different style, I think.
Yeah, and I think we might see Demise go back when we've got everything on the line in this final game of the night. They may default back to what they may be more comfortable on. But actually, you raised a good point when we were talking about it off air. You said, well, that does kind of hamstring you in drafts sometimes because it forces you either to ban it away, or let's say Munster Rugby Gaming are actually comfortable with it and we know how powerful it is, then that can put you in an awkward situation as well. We will find out. We've got one more game to go, and when we come back after the break, that will be our final champion select of the night.
Like you'll ever get paid to play video games, they said. Now you're players, creators, fans, all in one huge and growing community. Squad up, we're Barclays.
UKLC is presented by Barclays and Curry's PC World.
Okay, final game of the day coming your way, and it is going to be that third match in the best of three semi-final between Munster Rugby Gaming and Demise. Demise back on blue side, and actually, the funny thing about Demise on blue side is we always say that it actually hampers them because red side buff is Rifty last pick, and that's usually a good thing for Demise in most circumstances. So, interesting to see they got their win on blue side this time round. It is going to be a Karma and an Olaf ban. Again, the Caitlyn, not something that Munster wants to deal with. They're going to take it straight off the board. Callista now banned by Demise. We'll see what Munster do to this ban.
And also really interesting then that both times the lane that they ended up playing around was actually not the priority lane that they had a priority counter pick on, right? It was the Caitlyn lane beforehand that they pretty much blind picked, and it was the Luxona that they pretty much blind picked last game. So Demise definitely aren't looking to counter pick there. They just know that there are some very, very powerful picks that they want, and they're going for them. Volibear is a very common first pick. It's generally Volibear Ezreal trades that we normally see early on, or both of them just banned on blue side, but Munster Rugby Gaming do not want to get them a heavy priority bot lane. Though they are saying Sonalux quite clearly isn't that for you. So we'll see what Demise think there. Getting the last rotation Blitzcrank before they go into second land is very viable for Munster Rugby Gaming, so we'll see if they are no longer confident about going the Sonalux or not here. Otherwise, what are you planning to do into Ezreal? Now, Kai'Sa is actually a pretty good pick if we're going to talk about Demise. So Kai'Sa is actually very good in the 1-3-1 scenario versus Ezreal in the midsection. So then what Kai'Sa can do is get first priority on the wave on that, and then lean heavily towards her split pushing side and beat Ezreal there, so to say. So your top laner or side laner, maybe even mid there, but probably it's going to be Rifty, so top laner is able to get priority over his opponent there because there's a de facto numbers advantage. So Kai'Sa is actually pretty good into Ezreal in that specific scenario, and we're seeing an Orianna coming out here as well. So it's probably going to be like a 4-1 leaning heavily towards whoever Rifty gets. All Munster Rugby have to do is make sure they leave top lane for last pick, and hopefully it won't be such a big deal. So then what do we see blinded by Rifty? Maybe we'll see the Jax. We saw Jax in kind of an unfavorable lane scenario earlier today, but they relied on him being able to get himself to his later on item spikes and played heavily with him. Now, speaking of 1-3-1, Twisted Fate's always very good there if you are thinking about matching that kind of thing. Global threat, right? You can never, if TF's not on the map, you can never assume that you're not against him, you know? So that's a very good counter. And that could be Demise's plan out of the window, and Munster Rugby Gaming signaling a really strong comeback.
Yeah, and Diva, also known to be a very, very proficient Twisted Fate player, has actually had it banned against him a few times, as well as it obviously being strong in the meta right now. However, Demise have drafted pretty comfortable things for them. Like Beely on that Orianna has been banned away from him in second rotation. Okay. They're actually banning out the Jax themselves. In this scenario, the pick that we've seen Rifty blue side the most, especially on the latter half of this competition, has been Maokai. So it's always been a Maokai blind pick for Rifty on blue side in a lot of circumstances, and something that does work very well with the Orianna. So maybe that is what they're thinking about. Maybe they are thinking about the Maokai. The
Camille ban there is a very good response. Jax, I would immediately be thinking that they're intending to blind Camille. So the Camille ban there's a pretty good response. You still have something like Fiora open though, right? If they do opt in for Maokai to have double ball delivery system with Orianna and a triple dive comp with the Kai'Sa, that's viable, but then you're not really taking advantage of Kai'Sa's specific advantages against Ezreal. Ezreal himself is in a very unique setup. Okay. Ezreal himself is in a very unique set of strength right now. The immediate pick I was actually thinking of, by the way, was Fiora. But in a Fiora circumstance, would you really be looking to ban Darius? Because Fiora, actually, very few people really know, is actually a very good pick into Darius straight up. So I guess the Fiora is kind of off the table now.
I'm guessing it's just because you can riposte his ultimate, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and you can play very because he doesn't want you to dash directly onto him to get his Q off straight up, because he wants the edge of the Q to be hitting you, so you can play around that very easily. But the issue right now is that it looks like they're going to have to opt into a straight team fight composition. Maybe you'll see Silas again for them, because he does have a couple of very nice ultimates he can take now that the cannon is there, but it will instead be the Maokai. You are calling it correctly. So they're opting into full team fight versus team on the right. They know that the option of going a 1v1 after the Twisted Fate pick is probably not best for them right now. They're really putting a lot on Proxy, and Proxy had a very, very, very good first game here. So maybe that faith is not unwarranted. This definitely isn't what they wanted to go for based on the opening rotations. And the Lulu has been brought out.
Interesting.
Okay, triple shields coming out here. And yeah, this is definitely a Proxy composition right now. Orianna will try to create as much space as possible, but range advantages are definitely on team on the right. It looks like a Blitzcrank could be coming out here. I'm surprised by that. I know that we are looking at a shields composition. We did talk briefly about post-6 Blitzcrank versus shields, but a fresh would be, a fresh would be what I would opt to go for here, and that is what they have opted to do. Lulu, very difficult to play versus a Fresh. Fresh is a very unique champion where it's not just about if you miss position you get picked, but also Fresh actually can just straight up hard engage on you by flash flaying on top of you and behave like a Leona essentially. Just calling him a pick-based champion is not necessarily giving him his full credit. He's a very broken champion. Also, this bot lane is incredibly safe. I think Munster Rugby Gaming have this draft, and I think from last game we saw that they have maybe got gameplay advantages over a team on the left as well. I think though, if anyone shines on Demise in the victory, it's going to be Proxy, right? But he's playing within very difficult ranges. Demise have to be decisive. When they see the opportunity to collapse, they have to take it.
Yeah, and I think one of the issues that Demise have got is that right now this is very similar to the comps that they ran at the end of the season. People know what to expect from this kind of comp from Demise. They played this pretty much every game to generate their 4-game winning streak towards the end of the season. Whereas Rifty did often end up into tank versus tank matchups. You see, whereas the Maokai versus the Kennen, yes, okay, I can see that, especially early laning phase, there's options for Maokai to spend time top lane, potentially put Kennen a bit under the thumb. But is that what PFI wants to do this game on the volley bear? What is PFI's plan? Does he want to spend time with Rifty top, potentially put a bit of pressure on Kennen, or is he looking to play through bot? Like, where's PFI thinking about this game better?
Definitely probably to play through bot here. We could very easily see him do like a free camp top side into red into bot side, something like this, and maybe play versus set on bot. But set's very likely to just match that on bot side towards top side. So doing a camp trade probably not very likely here. The surprising thing for me would be if we were to see PFI do something like red into Raptors, which is very common for volley bears right now because they delete Raptors level 2 in towards top side and then move back down towards bot side. I feel like that might be a bit too much time and may give Ezreal Fresh some openings, but Ezreal Fresh will have to be playing unless Volibear gets a leash on bot side, as if Volibear is coming bot side anyway. The worst thing you could do is get leashed on bot side here, is the TLDR. My biggest issue right now is going to be the range discrepancy between Monster Rugby Gaming and Demise. It's very difficult for Kai'Sa to play into this unless she gets the opportunity to dive in, but for CC to arrive on the backline, Maokai would have to get a flank off, kind of unlikely. He's gonna have to give up a lot of ways to Kennen to be allowed to do that. Volibear maybe tries to get a flank here, but there's gonna have to be a massive gap in the vision game. And even if there is, Twisted Fate always has the opportunity to just press ultimate and reveal where everyone is, right? Twisted Fate's really good in those kinds of scenarios where you have a vision deficit. We normally see him versus poke compositions, but here he can be an additional guardian against a flank opportunity, and it's very difficult to find said opportunities.
So am I correct in reading that you think, just based on draft alone, we're favouring Munster Rugby? They're going to take it. They're going to go to the finals tomorrow.
Yeah, well, they were the favourites towards the start of the split. They're going to be the favourites at the end.
There we go. I like it. The veteran looping in storylines on broadcast he wasn't even on. Let's hand it over to Orcs and Hitbrain. See how they take it through this last game.
It really is do or die for both of these teams. They have 1 win and 1 loss, and the winner of this game is going versus Envision in the grand finals. Now, Orcs, talk to me about what we're looking at here. Veteran very, very favoured towards Munster. When I do look over to Demise, I do note that this is pretty much the team comp they ran throughout the last few weeks, minus the Ashe, and they've just subbed in a Kai'Sa instead. What are you making of this?
I mean, it's clearly putting a lot of eggs into the proxy basket, and it's something that we've seen the team do more and more. This was the change to putting this player on the roster, is that they have a lot of faith in him to be that big carry. The issue is they really put everything onto him. Obviously, Beely is going to be able to provide that damage output, but you're relying on the Kai'Sa to be a big threat. And there's a lot of things on the opponent team that's going to cause issues. The Twisted Fate is problematic. The Set is problematic. The Kennen, particularly problematic. So yes, if they get to the later stages, and to get to the point where the Kai'Sa can safely play out these team fights and has the protection to work with, great. But up until that point, you're dealing with the likes of a Twisted Fate who has a ton of map pressure. And in those earlier team fights, you're going to find it difficult to position. Kai'Sa obviously can have the massive benefit of itemizing pretty heavily into defensive items. But again, here, you can't go full AP. The AP build where you can build a Zhonya's or a Banshees is a bit risky to go, because you're going to be a heavy AP composition. It's only really the Volibear who has AD damage on your comp, and he is pretty mixed overall with his electric claws and such. So I think you need a bit of AD damage on the Kai'Sa, you need defensive items, and then you can comfortably team fight. But by that point, we could see Munster having already capitalized on an early lead and closing the game out.
You'll have to see how this early game goes out. I do want to see more from Demise early. Last time they lost really hard in bot lane and then just contested everything, which was questionable, I think is fair to say. I want to see them, not get hard stomped in. I feel like they got the tools to do that bot lane this time. I want to see them go for these early contests. Rifty on the Maokai. The pick, we've actually seen more and more of him in the last few weeks. He's actually very, very good at the tank top laners. And a lot of the time when we see him on this Maokai, he's versus a carry and he's just slapping them about.
Yeah, I mean, obviously here you kind of want your jungler to show up if you're going to really slap about a Kennen, but we'll have to see. Really, this is Demise playing into their team fighting strength, and I definitely prefer this than having the Luxona because it gives more agency to Proxy, and that is the critical person I'm going to be watching this game. Any gold lead Proxy gets is amplified by his team because he has a great front line to facilitate him. He has great shielding. So if you see a 1-2k gold lead for Proxy over Blue Spirits, it's going to be incredibly significant. But by all means, Munster should be the ones looking to get that early lead, playing around the early spikes, and the huge potential that this Twisted Fate unlocks in the early to mid game. I wonder what they're scared of.
Setting up for an invade there, but Munster actually are coming in with the delayed invade. Sweeper's been used, and they're actually going to start this up, but Chromax will spot them out. The hook is flashed away this time. Better placed. Beely's going to make his way over. No Name actually gets the flash face breaker off. The glitter lance lands onto multiple members, and the teleport's coming in. PFI smites for health as D.Va comes in with that gold card. No Name very low on HP. Rifty jumping in forward, jumps back, and that's No Name going down. First blood to Beely.
Hugely sacrificial there for Rifty. The TP out of lane for the level 1 play. Burns the flash as well, but ultimately kills off No Name, sets the jungler behind. And if you're ever going to be playing weak side, this is the ultimate weak side sacrifice play. A lot is lost here, but Rifty is happy to try and help out the rest of the team, and by delaying No Name's impact on the map, he is definitely doing so.
I think had Rifty not teleported in, that could have been a lot more hairy for Demise. So, like you said, he's going to be playing weak side anyway. He's happy to do so.
I think it was potentially going kind of even, but I think Rifty ensured that someone from Munster died. I don't think anyone from Munster dies if Rifty's not there.
Oh, good hook by Jeppe. Goes into the flay. Chromax already low. There is no heal. He's already just getting chunked out, and Jeppe just whips him one more time for the kill. Chromax has been having a really, really rough few games as Jeppe now just hunting Proxy down. Proxy's just going to have to run back towards the tower.
Just disrespectful. Jeppe got to the lane first to get some extra experience in this situation. Means he hits level 2 first. Chromax with no summoners was positioned so aggressively there. Just really easy to pick apart. And Jeppe getting an early kill onto Lulu is nice. Obviously doesn't get the gold himself, but it just sets up a ton of pressure in this situation to really punish Proxy. Now, Proxy playing with fire, but doesn't actually get connected with on that play, so is going to be safe.
Yeah, level 2 comes through for the Demise bot lane now as well. They're feeling a little bit more comfortable. Once that level 3 comes in, that's when they got a lot of tools to work with, all the shields, the speed ups, and obviously the ability just to stack that Void Seeker really effectively. Can actually look for a potential freeze here. Try and deny Blue Spirits and Jeppe from getting a cheetah recall off, and force them to try and deal with this wave.
Sponsor's going to come in from No Name just to force them off. You want to cheat? You want to freeze? Okay, sure. We'll clear the vision out and potentially threaten a dive in this scenario. If the wave builds up enough, they could look for that, especially as DBL does have teleport. So now it's a little bit concerning for the side of Demise. And also having the jungler lean down means Munster feel more comfortable to push up. But DBL, knowing his jungler's bot side, is going to play it safe, respecting the CC and engage potential. And he smells the gank and is able to disengage.
Jeppe and Blue Spirits are pretty low right now. That's something they do need to be a little careful of, as Proxy and Chromax now hitting that level 3 mark. He'll coming up somewhat soon for Chromax. Ignite will be up for Jeppe sooner. But the Lula Kaiser, level 3, they have so many tools to work with. And as long as you can dodge that hook, actually should be able to get the better hand of Munster just off their current health bars.
Another poke coming out there. Wave gonna crash in this situation. Actually, Jeppe going heavily to freeze it. So Demise unwilling to contest the freeze, concerned about No Name, and No Name actually dodging out those wards. So he can hex flash over the. He could have hex flashed over the wall and gone for a beautiful flank, but ultimately isn't as privy to this knowledge as we are.
They're looking to come in.
Has flash.
Demise actually do have Beely waiting in the wings. Look at him on the map. He's making his way down. So if action is to break out, they do have their mid laner with them.
This is the sort of thing you expect from a TF. But Beely doing a lot of work to roam down and just shadow the bot lane so they can crash the wave.
PFI? You good there, bro? Well, PFI takes the quicker base where you don't actually channel your recall.
So a little tidbit. They actually nerfed Volley Bear a couple of patches ago. And basically what they did was they made it so you heal half as much against monsters with your bite. I think that nerf might have just hurt PFI a bit there. Because no reason you should be dying to your jungle camps.
Ooh, that was not anywhere near as close as I've amped it up to be there, but it's going to be the dragon picked up.
It hit. That's impressive, right?
Yeah, you hit a stationary target.
Big stationary target.
PFI
back on the map. Had to make the walk of shame from base, but is just going to be able to pick up the stole.
It's a tactical recall. I don't know what you're talking about. Now PFI is potentially looking to go in onto Rifty. Rifty about to get flash. The DBL, he smells it every time.
Seeing the swap come in a little bit early again from Munster. Ultimately, not as early as last time. It's not the 6-minute swap, but Demise are going to be able to match that. They're still going to be a minute away from that Herald.
The recalls come in. The Cole's been picked up late for Proxy. Same for actually Blue Spirits. They both picked a Cole up. There are 3 Coles in this game.
Quick Cole stats. But something I want to highlight is the TP. Not only is there a TP available for DBL, but also the Destiny still available for D.Va. So a lot of threat around playing topside for Demise. If you commit to a play, you want to be able to make it out quickly. Now, Proxy's in trouble.
Yeah, trying to jump away from the flay and the hook. Proxy plays that beautifully. As Jeppe takes so much damage. PFI mauls down for the kill. The ultimates come in from D.Va and he's looking to try and mop up. Beely does have that ultimate available. But they just trade 1-for-1 support for jungle.
But that's great
no
for
teleport,
Demise.
unable to join.
I mean, I thought that play was going to go so horrifically wrong, but it went so right. They trade 1-for-1. They get the Destiny. They get the TP from DBL. Rifty's TP is coming up in about 40 seconds. This does mean that this may be a forfeit on this Herald. But actually, we've already seen the reset from DBL. If Rifty TP's in, he might be able to contest this. It might be a bit late, but
remember, Beely held Shockwave. No Name needs to be so careful here. A quick slow or a polymorph could be his demise. Jeppe comes over the wall and the Shockwave lands onto 2. Chromax has to flash away as Blue Spirits is looking to try and tidy up Proxy. Does a fair amount of damage, but now he's the one in trouble. D.Va gets the gold card on the Chromax and Chromax is being chased away. Beely comes in with a shield, puts the slow zone down and Chromax dodging away on the wild card. No, they won't. He is down. Another kill picked up for Diva.
Just a little bit messy then. Overcommittal from Demise when they don't have the backup. Rifty's TP was still charging up. PFI wasn't there, but they do stop the Herald. That is one critical factor, but overall favorable for Munster. Now PFI fishing for DBL. Flash comes
there's
in.
the engage. There's the turnaround. Caught out by the Nature's Grasp, and
Where's the counterplay?
just runs him over.
There just isn't any. It's like flash route, into a stun, into another route, into dead. Definitely need spider sensors to be able to detect that one, but DBL does end up going down. And because people are resetting on the top side, PFI actually gets that playoff without losing the Herald. So pretty favorable overall. Massive wave going to crash here, and plates in the pocket of Rifty.
That's fine. PFI got it, but there's another one coming up, so he can get that one instead. Really does mean he's low on mana and hasn't actually got teleport. Diva's now used Destiny and teleport, but means he's going to be first back. And with the recalls we've seen from Demise, they are actually slower to the punch as far as the Rift Herald comes up. So looks like they're just not going to be able to contest this. Everybody's resetting. Munster are going to be able to pick this up in response, but 3 plates down in the bottom tower already. Need to be a little careful.
You can see already, Demise are actually swapping back. So they've already committed to the fact that they've lost the Herald. They're going to play around the potential Dragon. We could actually see the Munster punish this. You know, if you're down in numbers on the top side, we could see Munster just look the hard force in this situation, but I just don't get the vibe they will. Namely because Rifty is actually really strong, and so is PFI. No Name is 2 levels down in the jungle, so you do not want to tango with this Volibear right now.
Proxy now got the killer instinct as well. Pickaxe and boots. Not going for the tier yet. DBL very slow on this swap. He is holding at the tower for as long as possible. Dragon spawning up in 25 seconds, and Demise, they're getting control over mid lane. They've got control over bot lane. They're going to rotate members over. Crucially, DBL is actually hung around because this Dragon's coming up, and he doesn't have teleport while Rifty does. So the call has been made to make sure that he is there to get that slicing maelstrom off, as they're looking for a gold card onto Beely. He's going to take the hook. PFI comes in. The shockwave lands onto 2. Beely gets caught out by the face breaker, gets himself the kill, but now Rifty teleports in just way too slow to the fight. Demise lose their mid laner, just over-greeding in the mid.
Yeah, Beely just massively overstepped there. Not sure what the positioning was. CC chain comes in. Easy execution there. Now, actually going to be able to kill the Herald before it gets to the tower, so bit messy from Munster there, but the reward is the Dragon, and they should be looking towards that one. However, as I say this, goodbye, Proxy.
Just a lot of greed coming out from Demise. You can tell the desperation's kicking in here, as they know this game's important.
Yeah, I mean, just a little bit overzealous, overstepping, and getting punished for both Beely and Proxy going down. It's going to be second Dragon picked up for Munster. Now, it's not going to be Infernal or Ocean. There's definitely not as much value out of this one. It's going to be a Mountain Soul, so an early Mountain Soul can be super impactful. We did see that earlier, just how much the shielding can really impact you when you're already down in gold when one's picked up so early. But it's not as game-ending as Ocean or Infernal for sure.
Proxy makes his way back towards the bot lane. Got the Sapphire Crystal on that base. That was a very suboptimal base for him.
I mean, it's going to be a very slow mana immune for the Kai'Sa. And Ezreal's already stacking up, because Ezreal can stack up as soon as he's got the tier. This Kai'Sa's already slow at stacking the item up, and just going to be even more so compared to Ezreal. And that's where we'll see the spike difference, really. Looking for the 3-item spike from Proxy to get all those upgrades. The Blue Spirit's 2 items is the big one. And speaking of spikes, TF really feeling strong right now. Roa built, so that'll be stacking up. But critically 2-0, the highest yes in the game. This Twisted Fate is feeling comfortable.
Really walking into Shepe a little bit there. Didn't end so well last time, but PFI got the back up and got the speed up. Is just boosting in to get the wards cleared out momentarily. DBL up in the top lane. Big thing to note is DBL's teleport is coming up soon, while Rifty has a while to wait until that is up.
Really fishing here for Diva, but not sure that's going to work. Just running at him. And again, he is hovering around, but the response from Munster is to push mid up. Proxy going to have to try and defend the solo. We'll see if they can pull this gank off.
Looks like they're just not going to be able to do it.
A lot of question mark things coming out. They are fishing for PFI, aware that he may well be leaning down towards the bot side.
PFI just going to head back in towards his jungle, go catch the farm. No name spotted out on these wards, so then have the information on where he is. Proxy, once again, walking up with the glitter lances connecting, and in comes Beely and PFI. They spotted No Name as the hook gets used. They use the Stormbringer, but instantly disengaged by a hook from Jeppe, and that's all she wrote on that. Rifty? He's taking a lot of damage here. Does actually do a fair amount back to DBL.
He's actually, you know, he actually wins that trade because he has sustain and also DBL bit in the ult. So
that's big, actually. Speaking of big, DB has to flash away from the shockwave. PFI running him down. They've got the gold card, but they catch him out with the slows, and the clockwork wind-up means Beely will be able to find this kill. Down goes Diva as a Maul will secure the kill. Meanwhile, now you're talking about sustain, but you can't sustain 2 versus 1. Rifty on the run, slammed him with the suplex. And in comes the fight in the mid lane. Chromax on the run as Proxy gets wild growth, but the slow from the box is too much for them to work with.
A lot of trading back and forth between these two teams. Obviously, the side lane lean from both junglers results in a kill for each. But the bot lane playing through mid does end up favoring out Munster. Cleanse and heal burnt from the side of Demise. So a slight advantage in summoners, but nothing too substantial.
Beely actually got the Oblivion Orb and Lost Chapter here. So I don't think we're going to see a tier build, as it'll be a very slow stack if he decides to get it now.
Yeah, I mean, you would if you go on the tier build, you itemize the tier early. So this is put a bit more emphasis on the early power for Beely. The Shockwave really hits hard as soon as you have those double pen items. And you can transition this either into a GLP for a bit more kiteability in the team fights, or for the Ludens for maximum burst potential on your Shockwave. Obviously, there's actually technically more burst on the GLP, but the problem is it's not as easy to land from a distance and layer with your Shockwave.
Jeppe playing in Fog of War. Always a threat. His hooks this series have been clean. There is no other way to describe it. He's been so clean with the hooks. The ball's actually over the wall by Beely, so they actually do have a bit of permanent vision to work with for the moment. As looks like they're just going to step away from this Rift Herald. Rifty will get first turret blood. So Demise overall, they're okay trading Rift Herald for first turret blood. May mean that mid tower falls though. So there might have to be some kind of response if they want to defend versus this. Also, third dragon for Munster's coming up, and Diva looks to get caught out. The shockwave is dodged away by the lantern. As Jeppe goes in for a hook on the Proxy. Proxy able to dodge away on it, and now Demise are chasing. The True Shot Barrage cuts through PFI, and no one else as the wildcards will go down to send them packing. This should just be Dragon now over to Demise as the Rift Herald gets summoned mid. So someone's going to have to deal with that.
TP from Diva means he's going to be able to rejoin, and Demise have to answer this Herald. No Shockwave available for the team fight is a little bit concerned. They're actually just letting mid go. They are so focused on this Dragon.
Remember, they don't have that shockwave. Jeppe flashes, gets the hook out. Here comes the Nature's Grasp. In comes PFI. Rifty straight to the backline as DBL catches out Beely and Proxy. But now they're looking to turn it around onto him. The Slicing Maelstrom was worn out, and Rifty is still tanking. Proxy slides with the Killer Instinct, and Blue Spirits is going to go down. Proxy falls, but he finds a double kill first. Rifty's chasing onto Jeppe. In comes Beely. They have the Twisted Advance. They have the slows, but Jeppe is out of there. Demise get the Dragon and the team fight.
They trade off the mid tower, but they just don't care. They manage to find the team fight despite the fact that Chromax gets caught out. He's advised for a lot of time, and then DBL just didn't have the damage to clean up on the backline, and Proxy remains safe for so long. Finishes off DBL, ults in for Blue Spirits, but the pivotal member for me of that team fight has to be Rifty. This Maokai was unfallible. This tree was an absolute monster, and it just soaked up so much of Munster's attention. It allowed them to turn it around and mitigate the impact of that Slicing Maelstrom. If that cannon ult hits and there's follow-up, the fight is over for Demise. But Rifty played such a good job interrupting there. It allowed them to find a window. And now you see Demise stopping the Dragon Soul win condition, delaying it by 5 minutes at least, and more resistances for Rifty and PFI are by all means a great thing in this situation.
Yeah, really, really good stuff there. Proxy actually got himself the recurve bow and the pickaxe, so closing in on at least the upgrade on the Acaphian Rain. I don't think it's yet because he got his tier quite late, so he won't have the extra AD yet. We'll have to see when he gets that upgraded. Almost finished the cull as well. Oh, wait. No, I think he has upgraded the Acaphian Rain.
Yeah, he has. You actually get it pretty early. Because he has the pickaxe as well, but you actually get it remarkably early. Especially if you've been in fights for presence of mind stacks is a massive factor.
True, yes.
And obviously he's hit the mark because it's basically 5 kills or assists and your presence of mind is fully stacked. So Proxy has got that. And the extra mana gives a lot of AD to contribute.
Yep, he just cashed in the cull as well, so should be close to that Gwynzoo's. Is Proxy going to supercharge away D.Va? He has the cleanse to work with, dodging away and everything. Proxy with the fancy dancing, and now the teleport's coming in. Demise are looking to turn this around. Actually gets interrupted bot lane by DBL, but meanwhile, Demise continue to chase.
This wasn't actually a great play for Munster. I mean, I actually think it's fine trading the Destiny for the cleanse. I think that's actually a good play, but it wasn't a great play. But when you get 2 TPs as well, for free, that is a great play. Essentially, you opted in for a 1-for-1 trade and you ended up coming out 3-for-1. So you got an absolute bargain. Buy one get one free. Buy one get one free. Buy one get 2 free. In fact,
there you go.
I don't know what I'm saying. Getting lost there. Buy one get 2 free, and Demise end up trading down heavily. So Munster more than happy with that one. But now you see top tower going to go down for Munster. And Munster, they are fishing. No plans available now.
Proxy needs to get away. They are just going to lose mid lane turret, though, if they don't get hit quick. It got that charge out from the Herald, and Beely's going in for the recall. PFI's zoning D.Va away, but I want to keep my eyes on this mid lane because Proxy, Rifty, and Chromax are able to get there in time to save it. Now PFI continuing to hunt D.Va down. No Name's actually found him, and he's got the gold card. Gets the healed off on the Sky Splitter, throws down the Stormbringer to try and keep himself alive. Thundering Claws means he's got enough movement speed to jump away if the true shot will hit him, just as a farewell gift. A lot used there by PFI to survive, though.
Yeah, a lot invested, but he does get away safely. You can definitely see that Munster just fishing for these kills. Wanted to try and capitalize on any advantage they can find, but they are down in gold. Dragon spawning in a minute and a half. This is going to be where they can take this team fight again. Demise team fighting really is difficult to deal with. The front line is so strong, and the back line has so much protection. Do you not see the 2-item spike from Proxy coming out? Not quite at that 3-item, where you really look to establish dominance in the matchup, because you can see Blue Spirit's Triforce, fully stacked Mana Immune, is really powerful. But
I don't think he would have upgraded his supercharge yet either. So a little bit of a wait. Yeah, he's just on the cusp. You need to get the recurve bow or the stinger, depending on what you build, to actually upgrade the supercharger. So he doesn't have the invisibility on his E. Although the pings are going down at Baron. Munster are a little scared that Demise can rush this, so they have to throw the Destiny down just to spot them out.
Well, that's a big cost. Not going to be up again for that dragon fight, so you lose out on the potential information. 45 seconds before it spawns. Both teams getting set up, and I do feel like Munster are pretty strong right now with their power spikes. They can't really ignore the fact that Demise are not weak by any means, especially Beely with the Loons and the double pen items. His shockwave, if it connects on multiple members, could just win that team fight instantly.
And remember, the crucial thing is Demise won that last dragon, which means they don't have to contest this. They want to, but if they lose it, it's not end of the world for them.
And that's the thing. What I feel like happens, if Munster are 1 away from getting the dragon, then the focus for Demise needs to absolutely be on the dragon. But now that it's not, it means if Munster overcommit on the dragon, Demise can go, fine, take the dragon, we take the fight, and then we get Baron.
Oh, Jeppe.
And that's
PFI's going to run him down. They got a lot of movement speed. Proxy slides in after Blue Spirit's exhaust is there. They slam him back, but Proxy's got the wild growth to work with, and No Name is just being cut through. Has to go golden for the moment. The slicing maelstrom gets interrupted, and Proxy's now to Jeppe. DBL being zoned away by Rifty. Once again, this tree is so hard to cut down, and he's actually going to be able to get himself a kill. Here comes the Stormbringer, and down goes PFI as he gets the kill onto DBL. Chilling Smite is chilling to the touch, and Munster chasing for a little bit more. Rifty gets ignited as PFI gets gold carded and a Q thrown onto him. Demise get the kills, and they're going to get the dragon as well.
And they're just able to force. They just look for a target, speed up PFI, and just say, let's go. They find Jeppe. Although it takes a bit longer to manage to take anyone down from Munster, they managed to get a favorable team fight. Despite the fact that DBL nearly won that with the slicing maelstrom, it was actually Rifty's root from his ultimate that stopped it in its
Oh my
tracks.
lord, that's a speedy bear. Gets himself hooked and has to run away. Actually takes a lot of damage. Beely doesn't have that shockwave quite yet, but the shields are enough to keep him alive. Woo, PFI almost going down. They do lose the tower.
Overstepping a little bit, but ultimately does survive. And it was a similar situation that team fight. Proxy looking.
Remember, this is, like we were saying on the desk, this is a very, very big shield comp. Proxy has a lot of pseudo health to work with.
And the critical thing is we need to see Munster threatening this backline. We need to see an earlier slicing maelstrom, and we need to see it connect. It actually nearly was good there, but again, Rifty's root stopped DBL in his tracks. He wasn't able to get on top of Proxy and Beely, and so we saw a situation where Demise's backline could go unchecked despite how low on HP they were. And that is the scary thing, because we're getting towards a point where they're going to be able to start itemizing defensively. And that is when these front-to-back compositions get scary, because once Beely and Proxy have defensive items, it becomes much harder to take them out, and you have to invest so much more to try and find the kill. So Proxy going to be working towards the Phantom Dancer next. Beely could likely go for the Banshees as an option, or potentially the Zonyas. Both of those will make Munster's game so much more difficult.
Yeah, it is the AD Kaiser. You did note on this that you wanted to see the AD Kaiser come out, as there is a lot of AP damage on Munster. So I like this pick up for Proxy.
Ultimately, Banshees or Zonyas would be lovely here. But again, the AD is more important. Otherwise, you just end up seeing people stacking MR. And already you've seen Merc Treads from both No Name and Diva. There isn't actually too much MR stacking yet, but if you did opt into the AP build, you'd probably end up seeing it. So,
do you know what the big win is here? The big win is we don't have to deal with the Kaiser bug. There's a Kaiser bug where when she evolves her W for the spectator, it's invisible. We can see it now because they're not upgrading it with this build. So win-win.
That's a doozy, that one is. But you see Demise, they are confident to push up in this area. Only slightly ahead in gold, but they are so favorable when they're grouped and they're not going to get flanked. Poke comes out from Munster, but isn't going to connect. Now, Diva is applying that pressure in the side lane. So something that was talked about in the desk, how with the TF on the enemy side...
Oh, Rifty's just jumping in. Jeppe caught out as Proxy slides in to make sure the kill is picked up. Jeppe goes down and Proxy secures the kill. They got such a tanky front line, and this is the thing we were highlighting about Demise. The shift, the turn, when this team started playing like one of the top teams in the league, it came off the back of them recognizing of their team fighting capabilities. Proxy starting to take over games time and time again, and Baron's getting started up. The Destiny's timed out, and Diva actually isn't even going to throw it down. Shockwave lands onto No Name, and already very, very low. Rifty slides in over the wall. The Baron's being secured, and DBL's being chased down by Rifty. Proxy and Chromac can't quite get over the wall, but Diva is inside the base. They got the Baron to work with. Rifty 1 versus 3, by the way. Still running them through. No Name's going to go down as PFI slides into the kill. Rifty goes under the tower, and the shutdown there for Blue Spirits.
Clutch arcane shift there. Now watch Diva. Diva can flank on... No, never mind. I was like, he can flank. He can run behind them. He can... No, he's just opting out. He gets 2 towers, but they lose Baron in return. And despite the fact that Rifty falls, it's still heavily favorable for Demise in that situation. Next Dragon up in a minute 20. Demise is going to reset and get back on the map. Now, we do actually see a Runans coming in for Proxy, so a lot more AoE damage, but less safety, which... I can understand when you're that primary damage threat, but I still think the PD would have been the ideal option, in my opinion. But
I actually really like the Hurricane because it really shows us that Demise are playing for team fighting. Obviously, you do sacrifice some of the survivability because Proxy most likely picking up the Infinity Edge as his next item. He's got the pickaxe in the inventory. So, like you said, you are going to lose a bit of survivability, at least for a while, until after the Infinity Edge is finished. But the team fighting capability is massive. And also the wave clear now he has also spikes pretty heavily with this.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to be that one carry and you trust your teammates to keep you alive and your positioning, then definitely has a strength. Now, PFI is hunting.
Yeah, not going to pull the trigger quite yet. They are just going to start up on the tower. Diva on that flank does have the Destiny available. Tower number 2 in the mid lane will crumble as Demise able to brute force their way through the lane, and now they can look towards this 3rd Mountain Drake for them. There's a lot of extra stats coming in from these 3 mountains now.
Yeah, and it's on the critical members, which are these tankier champions. Like, the Rifty being even tankier just makes things so hard to deal with because you don't have great damage for cutting through tanks.
Diva? That was just an easy pick, and now Rifty's got the speed up. He's looking to jump in. Jeppe gets caught out as Rifty has the wild growth on him. Look at the damage coming out from Proxy. No Name can only do so much as Proxy flashes forward, but DBL gets a massive slicing maelstrom, able to shut down the carry, and all of a sudden, the game might just be flipped on its head. PFI does turn the tower off and gets himself a return kill, but it's a 2 for 2.
I am just speechless after that Twisted Fate play.
That was,
It must be a misclick. It must have been a misclick. It must be like he was looking over here and he pressed R for vision and then he accidentally pressed it
Oh
twice.
no, Jeppe, you are flashless and you are going down, my friend. PFI gonna be able to secure the kills. No Name makes his way forward. Teleports are coming in, and actually this fight is going on. PFI gets a bit of survivability thrown down as he dodges out on the haymaker, but Diva comes in, gets slowed down momentarily, catches the gold card onto Chromax. Chromax speeds himself up, shields himself up, trying to get some space out as No Name gets the speed up. The shockwave on the free by Beely, turning the play around, and Demise are hungry for blood. Haymaker goes down by No Name, but nobody will fall today. The wild growth and the double kill. Beely, that shockwave was gorgeous.
Beautiful play there. The patience on Beely and finding the 3-man shockwave to insta-kill Blue Spirits was massive. I have no idea what Munster and particularly Diva was doing there, but Demise did, and they had answers. 8-2 on PFI now on the Volley Bear. Yes, he died to a jungle camp, but that is one of the only people that can take him out this game because his shielding is making his Volley Bear invincible.
Who knew Blue Side's Wolves was scarier than DBL?
Literally. I'm gonna just move on from it. I'm just gonna, in my head,
It's time to chill out. Just, yeah,
it
let
was
it go.
it was a misclick from, I'm gonna assume until I have other information, that must have been a misclick from Diva. That's the running storyline. It's the only way I can accept it and move on, because I don't really want to comprehend the decision making behind if that wasn't a misclick. So onwards.
Look, man, it just make like Elsa and let it go.
Yeah. 3 dragons for Demise, and obviously they don't have the soul yet, but the impact of those extra resistances pretty nice. Being able to stack those up. We're now seeing a 4k gold lead, and Demise are just forcing these team fights. Again, Munster opening the map up into 1-3-1. It's what they can do well. It's what's favorable, but Baron spawning in a minute 15. Demise have that team fighting power you have to be concerned about. So the question is going to be, how will the answers come in? I'm looking at DBL for those flanks on the cannon, trying to see what you can potentially do if they're trapped in a Baron pit.
If it pops the Destiny, I think maybe hoping that they could get some kind of a pick onto somebody, but instantly Demise just bolt towards Beely and go, we got you, bro. You ain't going down today. Medjai's onto Beely as well. Infinity Edge finished up onto Proxy. I'd actually see a Death Stance come out last from Proxy.
Yeah, I think it's pretty decent. Plus, actually,
especially on the Mountain Soul. There's
another
so
thing
many
to add,
bonus stats
actually,
you get from it.
So with Orianna, whoever your ball is on actually gets extra resistances based on the levels in your E. So that's going to be amplified even more by the Mountain Soul. So even though you're not seeing much resistances on Proxy, that actually does factor in. And on top of that, Beely does have that Zhonya's for a bit of armor. Obviously, not hugely impactful against the threats really looking towards him, like the Kennen and the TF, but it's a pretty dangerous situation for Munster right now. Stopwatch coming in for PFI, Stopwatch for Proxy, Medjai's for Beely. A lot of big investments into these items that kind of suggests to me that they're looking to make the final fight this one around the Baron. If it goes in their way, it could well be. So they are grouping around, Baron has spawned, and they're just trying to clear this vision out with Rifty. See Munster still trying to play the map a little bit wider with TF pushing the top lane. They need to respect his Baron potential. No Name 3 levels down on PFI. He does not want to tangle with the bear.
Oh, you don't want to tangle with the bear, but Diva gets jumped onto by PFI. Chunked out instantly. No Name, that's taking a lot of damage here. Gets caught himself out, suplexes back, but in comes Proxy looking to tidy this one up. DBL comes in. That slicing Maelstrom is absolutely enormous. Proxy has to go Golden, trying to survive for the moment. Is able to get himself the turnaround. Beely kills DBL. Jeppe looks for the hook on the Chromax. Blue Spirit shifts forward, gets himself an answer. Diva has popped the Destiny, is looking to come in for the flank. Can he catch out onto Rifty? Can he catch out onto Proxy? Gold card available, but he's being zoned away from the rest of the team. Wild cards are cutting through. Proxy forces him to flash away. And Demise continue their chase forward, but Blue Spirits is trying to collapse in. Gets himself a shutdown onto PFI. That Q was so well placed. And Munster get the team fight.
It's so scary, the fact that they didn't stomp that team fight despite how good DBL's ult was. DBL's ult was perfect. You know, I was talking about the Kennen being that big potential fight winner, and he found the perfect avenue, the perfect angle, and yet they still only got one of that initial fight. The only reason they actually came out ahead in numbers was because you saw Blue Spirits flash to get PFI. That shows how rough things are right now for Munster, but they do find a team fight. They managed to clear the members out. They are now resetting, unable to really do the Baron with those HP bars, but it gives them a little bit of control over the map. PFI still got 10 seconds, 5 seconds, sorry, now to spawn. Munster shows they can win these team fights. It's a big ask. It needs to go forward.
There's a teleport coming in, though. Blue Space has to shift away, and Rifty's just chasing Diva down, gets gold carded, but that doesn't mean anything. Voidseeker connects, and Diva is just going to get cut through. Has to use the Zhonya's. The Lantern is going to be way too slow as Proxy secures the kill. Down goes Diva. He's on a 52-second death timer. Dragon's coming up in 35 seconds, and it looks like Demise, they're more focused on the Dragon.
I think the thing is, they know that the Baron's not going to get taken by Munster here. It takes too long. There's too much threat. But the Dragon is a real threat. So they prioritize the objective at highest risk of being stolen away. And also, once they get that Mountain Soul, we were talking about backline protection for Demise. That would give a ton of hit.
Oh, look at Proxy. He's so quick. No Name's getting chunked, and now the Voidseeker just about dodged away by Blue Spirits, but Proxy just flashes in forward. Killer Instinct's available to him, and he slides in, gets himself one, looking for No Name, but unable to do so. Jeppe being zoned away by Beely and Rifty. Double kill for Beely. And Demise, this game is looking so clean, so much more controlled than our last game. And they are back. They are wanting to fight Envision for the title at the top of the UKLC. And all that stands between them are a few more turrets and that Nexus.
When you wave this small, but they're looking to dive.
Yeah, they're going to turn the tower off already, instantly stomping onto DBL. No Name comes into the backline, tries to throw back Proxy, but Proxy gets so many shields and tanks, gets shut down though in return. It's Demise. Try to end the game, and No Name single-handedly holds it for a little bit longer.
Yeah, a bit overzealous, honestly, to force the middle towers. The Nexus, and now actually Destiny coming in. They want to stop this Dragon. But even without Proxy, it still might be difficult.
Oh,
look at his speed!
He's trying to turn it as Beely's chasing him down. Has got the shockwave. Not up yet, actually. So he's going to hold it. Proxy's not up for 30 seconds, and Diva's doing his good job of actually pulling members away. Rifty, though, this is one tanky tree. He's just going to catch out No Name, slam him back, catch him out of the Nature's Grasp, and No Name, his health bar is just liquefying right now. Shockwave comes down by Beely onto Jeppe, and they get PFI in response. It's a 1-for-1 as Rifty being zoned away momentarily. Teleport's coming in as DBL looks to join. Rifty takes a hook from Jeppe, takes a gold card. There's a lot of CC to work with, and Rifty is cut down by DBL. This will be Dragon number 3 for Munster.
Actually, just overcommit there. All Demise need to do is buy time, but they overstep, get baited into a fight. And without Proxy, you can see how much their damage is really lacking. Dragon picked up by Munster, and they're managing to find a way to keep themselves alive in this game. Even when it looks so dire, they are still fighting. 5k the gold lead for Demise, but the Dragons are equalized. Baron is up, however.
Yeah, Proxy's got the GA now as well. So full build, 25 stacks on the Medjais for Beely.
A lot of stacks.
He needs a death cap.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to sell the Oblivion Orb for the death cap when there's enough money available. And that is when the Orianna will really hit like a truck, as if she isn't already. Seeing the Rabadons from DBL, and again, the person you need to watch is this Kennen. If they're going to find that advantage, it needs to be on him. Ultimately, denying the Mountain Shield is actually pivotal. I feel like in a composition where you're playing front to back and you have a backline you want to protect, like we have with this Kaisen and Orianna, a Mountain Soul is just, it hurts so much because DBL's job, it just becomes so much more difficult and the threat to the backline is so much harder to do. But Demise is going to start the Baron up.
Yeah, Destiny's going to get used here. Two-shot barrage, going to cut for a couple of members. Proxy actually takes a lot of damage from that. That is probably just going to be Demise calling it off. They forced out the true shot. They forced out the Destiny. Buys him a little bit of space right now. There's a pretty big wave that's stacking up, and PFI, he's not going to fight in. Jumps in, already gets chunked. The Wild Growth is used. Here comes the slam back. Proxy gets absolutely chunked. DBL looking for it, but Proxy's actually zoned away. He's not actually going to get caught out for the moment. Munster's health bars are very, very low, and Proxy has the AoE to work with. Rifty throwing out that damage. Jeppe goes down. It's a double kill for Proxy already. And Munster, low health bars, but Proxy losing all of his frontline is just going to back away for the moment. Voidseeker doesn't quite find its mark, and Proxy with no ultimate can't really overstep, can't really go for more.
PFI, I mean, I had a lot of praise from before, but that was nearly the biggest mistake he could make. Overstepping massively, losing his entire HP bar, and forcing the Wild Growth from Chromax just to stay alive a little bit longer. And then, worst of all, No Name being able to ult him in. And remember, Set's ult does damage based on the target's maximum HP. So, a lot of value out of that one. And, I mean, ultimately, Demise managed to survive. Proxy and Rifty picking up a couple of kills at the end definitely helped in their favor. But I honestly thought I could have seen the end of the game there for a split second. It was definitely a precarious one, but Demise do survive. They have to be careful, though. If they make a throw like that again, that could just be it.
Yeah, that was way too over-eager by PFI. And I feel like the reason Proxy wasn't willing to try and mop up that fight, considering how low the health bars were, was because he didn't have the Wild Growth. Lulu had used everything to keep PFI alive, and now Proxy has to be careful. Dodges away on the Flay, actually gets the quickness offers. That's another ultimate onto PFI. Shockwave lands as DBL tries to turn it around. The stuns onto Proxy as Proxy's able to survive. Not going to lose his GA yet. Here comes the turnaround on from D.Va, but D.Va just instantly gets stunned up. Has to use the Zonyas. Rifty's just buying time on the backline, though. Beely gets himself a kill onto D.Va. That's going to be a legendary kill for him. And Rifty is just running through everybody. The res is coming out, and Proxy can rejoin into the fight. They've got themselves a double kill. Now they actually might be turning it around. Munster have found their opening. Proxy doesn't have a Lulu, doesn't have the manpower to keep him alive right now. Gets the blast cone away to safety, and Proxy's out of there. Munster may just start up Baron, though.
Munster finding the team fights in this situation. Ultimately, Proxy gets caught out in a really precarious spot. Does manage to survive for a bit, but I mean, just back away. You can't fight this.
Yeah, that is game, Proxy. If you go down here, you are dead. Forces the shift out of Blue Spirits, and Baron for Munster. 41 minutes on the clock. I knew the final game of playoffs would deliver. This has been such a tight season. It's been so close the entire time. And what a way to round it out.
Proxy is just struggling to find a way into these fights with the short range. This is the critical issue we're seeing here. It was talked about on the desk. Proxy is unable to maneuver these fights effectively because of the threat of the CC. GA didn't actually no, GA did get proc there, but sold it for the mixed scimitar. They're able to eliminate some of that CC and maneuver a bit better. But it is getting really scary for Demise right now, who had a big lead, who had confidence in their scaling. Munster are pulling it back, and it is all about Blue Spirits right now. This Ezreal is huge.
Oh, Proxy slides in with the ultimate. Destiny gets used. Here comes D.Va onto the backline. Catches out onto Proxy. Proxy gets thrown back at the moment. He's looking trying to get it around, but he's slammed out. DBL zoned him away. Proxy got the shield and got the healing to work with. Beely gets the kill onto DBL. That's what he needed to do to start this one off. But Munster are just mopping it up. Beely's going to get taken down. D.Va's low HP, but not low enough. A triple kill picked up for Blue Spirits. And Munster, once again, just blow it open.
Might just look to end the game here. This is a 4v2. Proxy does have cleanse available, but needs to get back to the fountain quick. Definitely going to take an inhibitor here, but the question is going to be, can they end? They have TP coming in from D.Va. It's 2v4. Lulu Kai'Sa against the world.
Wild Growth, once again, not up. Proxy has that AoE with the Runans. He can try and cut through the waves as quick as possible. Tries to dodge away from the gold card. They actually just throw it down onto one. Proxy throwing the damage out as the turret's going to go down. Proxy, I don't think you're able to do this. The hook comes down. There's the kill. There's the base. Munster are into the finals.
And what a huge comeback, in all honesty. Not just in the game, but the fact that we've seen this slump in Munster. We had question marks. Demise and Envision were what's hot right now. And Demise fall, despite a 5k gold lead, despite the front-to-back team fighting, and the feeling that they could execute on this, they couldn't capitalize. It was the range advantage that was there for the size of Munster, the inability for Proxy to consistently find DPS, and ultimately Blue Spirits was the one who stepped up in this battle between the 80 carries. Huge achievement for Munster, and they secure their ticket to the finals and to the Telia Masters.
I genuinely think that game turned around when they overstayed in the base to try and to end the game effectively, instead of just taking the inhibitor and going for Soul. I think if they'd gone for Soul, wrapped it up, based, and gone for Baron, it would have been so much harder, but they gifted over the kill. They turned around and started losing dragons again. And from that point on, it felt like Munster had the number. They jumped onto Proxy every time. They used everything to take this Kaiser out of the fights. And like you said, the range advantage was just way too much. It was just incredibly stellar by Munster to be able to turn that game around. And what a back and forth, just bloodbath to end the playoffs on, considering all of our other games were so one-sided. I do believe we have our desk standing by to break this game down. So Excandrel, over to you.
Bloody hell, guys. Bloody hell. I mean, what on earth was the end of that game? I honestly, for most of the game, I was sitting there thinking, Demise got this. It's easy. Like, there's no way they lose this now. And you know, I had veterans saying, it's a four mountain soul, mountain drake with Maokai. It's going to be unkillable. And they just didn't get it.
They just decided not to get it. They went for the inhibitor and then they tried to go for the win. They could have even done the inhibitor and peeled off and done the mountain soul. It was obvious to even like hit brain on the cast. That's exactly what they should have been doing, you know? Imagine having a 4 mountain soul on the shields composition, which, let's remember, actually do factor distances into account, with a Maokai, with a Volibear, with a team that has to deal with immense range disadvantages on team on the right, and actually have to tank through to get into them. And you know what? I can say this now because he actually won the game. D.Va did spend most of that game just handing himself over to the enemy team. He was the one being picked off. Sometimes he picked himself off just ulting in. But right on the final fight there, it was actually D.Va that made the play, that got onto Proxy in the backline, that stalled him, that allowed Set to get onto him, that removed the AD carry out of the fight, that the whole composition had been built around. And, you know, credit to Proxy. Proxy was a massive threat for most of that game. It took until that final fight before they were finally able to take him out of it. But when they did take him out of it, they finally got their win. And, you know, hats off to D.Va. He really made up for the performance for the rest of the game in that final fight. But they had it even in that fight. They would have definitely won it if they were able to get that mountain soul. And they didn't. They just opted not to. It became their game to lose, even though from draft it was absolutely Demise's game to win. But there you go. Sometimes it happens that way.
What do I even say? Like, it definitely felt like, I've got to give credit to specifically Blue Spirits as well on Munster Rugby. He had 3 team fights in a row where he actually just popped off. But we have, I believe we've got No Name ready to talk to, the jungler from Munster Rugby Gaming, who I'm sure is firstly over the moon that he's in the Telia Masters. No Name, congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh my word! Like, okay, right. That game. Talk to me from when they were at your Nexus towers. What was being said in the team? Like when they were at your Nexus towers trying to take it down. Like what were you talking about? And then how did you go from there?
Not much was being said. Like, we're really tense. It's like a really scary situation. I just know I have to take out the main carry, and we like Kaiser really into it, I guess, and I managed to kill her somehow.
Oh my word, veteran! Have you got anything you want to specifically touch on with Munster Rugby Gaming?
Yeah, I mean, quite clearly you guys had the better draft going into this game. It did, however, turn out to be very, very close. I assume you watched the previous semi-final series. Are you confident about facing them tomorrow based on current performance? Are we going to see a better Munster Rugby Gaming tomorrow that doesn't take it down to the very last second?
Yeah, definitely. We're really confident going to Envision. We think we're better than them, and we'll perform better than today.
So talk to me about Munster Rugby Gaming Academy, because I think this is the first time that we've actually got to chat to you. Talk to me about the team. Like, is this a team that you think is like super strong bot side, or do you think that you've got great mid jungle, or is playing through top side a feature of your team? Like, what is it that you think makes your team especially strong at this level of the UKLC?
Well, really, we can play through any lane on this team. Like, we're not hindered by any player. What seems to be the best is through bot side, as you can probably tell. Like, Blue Spirits is popping off all the time. Like these Callisti games and stuff, we always managing to come out ahead. And I think this is one of our strongest playstyles. But it's not like we're limited to it. And like, if people disrespect us on top side, we can for sure punish them.
I think realistically, most people have watched Blue Spirits games and have thought, yeah, okay, this guy's got it. He's a really good up and coming AD carry. I think going into Envision, what is it that you think is, if you were to like name a part of Envision that you like, the part of the team that you're worried about, like if you tell me, okay, well, this is their strongest facet, what do you think their strongest and their weakest part of their game is going to your series tomorrow?
For sure, I think their strongest part is mid jungle. But I think their weakest part isn't necessarily a player, but more like champ pools, because we see, seems like their jungle and mid are kind of like two tricks or really small champ pool, but they excel on the champs when they do get them. So yeah, I think that is their strongest and weakest part.
Yeah, I think fair assessment given what they've played well on across the last few weeks. Honestly, massive congratulations. I think I need to reiterate, you're going to Telia Masters now. Whatever happens tomorrow, you're going to Telia Masters. Yeah. You play through that tournament, you play like you've been playing against some of the other Nordic teams that are qualifying, then you are potentially getting a shot at the NLC, which is obviously then just one step away from the European Masters. So you've got a lot to play for, a lot to work for over the next few weeks. But I'm sure with a team of your caliber, there's definitely potential there.
Yeah, definitely.
Congratulations, No Name. I hope you get some rest and prepare for your series tomorrow, and we'll see you back here then.
Thank you.
Oh, veteran! What a day! That last series that we just had was definitely more action-packed, a bit more exciting, a bit more to the wire, as you said, compared to our first series. But we have got our two teams locked into the finals. So let's have a look at that bracket. We can show you. And if you needed visual representation of two teams moving one stage through the tournament, we have it for you. It's here in this bracket. Envision versus Munster tomorrow, and I believe. I might get told off by production. I believe we're starting our usual UKLC time tomorrow, which would be 6 p.m. CEST. So I believe that's what's going to come up. And I can confirm it with the schedule if it comes our way sometime soon. But I do believe that tomorrow we will be having our normal start time. Yes, there we go. I'm confirmed. 6 p.m. CEST. Envision versus Munster Rugby Gaming. And I think let's get some closing thoughts here, veteran. Of these two teams, who do you think is going to come out victorious and why?
So I actually do think playing for bot side priority is probably going to be better. However, I don't think Envision are going to allow the power picks like Caitlyn through. So the most they're going to settle with is an Ezreal. And then I do think there's going to be a discrepancy around top side of the map. So right now, I would say Envision, but Munster Rugby Gaming have shown that no matter what happens when their backs are against the wall, they are fully able to pull out the clutch plays. But I don't think Envision are a team that is going to give them the kind of comeback potential that Demise did today. So I'm gonna say right now, preliminarily, I'm going to say Envision are coming in with an advantage. It's going to be a very interesting matchup no matter what. One team's going to play heavy through bot, one team's going to play heavy through top. Let's see which style ends up being the superior UKLC style at the end of the playoffs.
Just, I think I agree with you. I just have a quick correction. It's 6 p.m. BST, so 7 p.m. CEST tomorrow. So that's apparently our normal time. I just didn't know that was our normal time, despite having done about 50 broadcasts. Nonetheless, let's close the show on that bombshell, and we will see you guys tomorrow for the finals of the UKLC.